Good morning, honorable members. Good morning to our invited guests today. The time is 10 o'clock. I think we can start the meeting and finally break this tension that's been in this room. Okay. So, thank you so much to everybody who has honored the meeting today. My name is Kusela Digo. I'm the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Communications and Digital Technologies. I will give an opportunity to the members of the committee to introduce themselves. Thereafter, to just ask the delegations present if they could introduce themselves as well. But maybe let's just get some housekeeping issues out of the way first in terms of the agenda of the day and maybe the purpose of the meeting. Before we do that, I just want to make a reflection. All of us would have woken up today to the news of almost 70 people having died in Mthatha, in particular in the Eastern Cape, as a result of inclement weather there. I think this committee holds them in their hearts, and we send their condolences to their families. But it reminded me of an oversight visit that the committee did to the very same area in the Eastern Cape in October of 2024. We were sitting in a municipal chamber, and a community member, stood up and said to us they blame the networks for the death of the people in Lusikisiki. We're sitting there like, how do you blame the networks for the death of people in Lusikisiki? And I remember it was Honorable Potlani who followed up. And that community member answered and said, when the massacre was happening in that village, they could not call for help. They couldn't call the South African police services. They could not get ambulances in time to help the injured because there was no connectivity. Now, as we sit here today, I need you to understand that this is the context within which we as a portfolio committee have thought it necessary to call you. You know, some of the issues may be irritations to capital that we're busy talking about this. Don't they know that we're trying to get to it? But we literally deal with these situations on a daily basis. So I truly appreciate you making the time for this conversation, but maybe want to add that I did consider whether I must prepare formal opening remarks and speak pages and pages of things to open the meeting. And I thought, but if indeed it's in a spirit of collaboration, yes, the committee members are here, there's things that they want to understand, but we also want to listen to you, to understand what are the challenges, how can we together work to fix them. So that's really the context of why we are here today, and I truly hope that you know, our engagements will reflect that spirit of appreciating you know, the dire straits our people are in firstly, but also your immense contribution, especially to the priorities of job creation, inclusive growth, reducing the cost of living, and so forth. So without any further ado, let me invite the committee members to please introduce themselves. I will start on my right. Honorable Subrathi.
Good morning. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. And good morning to honorable members and honorable guests. I'm Imran Subrathi, a member of this Portfolio Committee. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity. Good morning, members and guests. My name is Oscar Matafa. I'm also a member of the committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and greetings to my fellow members. My name is Sinao Tambo, member of this Portfolio Committee deployed by the EFF. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, and colleagues and everyone in the room. My name is Siqoli Seqilishe, a member of the Economic Freedom Fighters and a member of this committee. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair. Dumela Mbagolo. My name is Slofelo Potlane, member of the Portfolio Committee.
Good morning, Chair and colleagues. My name is Sbongi Seni Vilagazi. I'm a member of the committee. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair. Sanibonani nonke, colleagues. Igama lami nguThulani Shongwe, deployed by Umkhonto weSizwe. I'm a member of this committee. Thank you.
We didn't see you when we were starting, Honorable Shongwe. We thought the soldiers were still fighting in the DRC. Thank you. Can I invite the committee advisors as well as the secretariat to also introduce themselves, please?
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, and good morning, members and everyone present. My name is Tembingo Singoma, and I'm the committee secretary. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members, colleagues. My name is Jacob Midupi. I'm the coordinator advisor for the committee. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Morning, honorable members and colleagues. My name is Mbombo Maleka. I'm his counterpart. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Could I then hand over to our esteemed guests? If you could please introduce your delegations. I'll start with ACT.
Good morning, Chairperson, members of the Portfolio Committee, CEOs present in this room, Department of Communications, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nomvuyuso Baji. I am the CEO of Association of Comms and Technology.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, esteemed colleagues and also committee members. My name is Al Kope. I'm the CFO from SALSI.
Can we finish the SALSI delegation? Sorry, if we can just do it in order, yeah?
Thank you so much, Chair. The rest of my team sitting up at the top, I've got Juba Mashaba, who is our Chief People Officer, Julie Arendt, who heads up our Legal, Regulatory and Risk, Temba Piri, who is our Regulatory and Policy Affairs member, Letiwe, who leads up our Communications team, and Joshua Mwele. They're all sitting at the back. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Could we move to Rain?
Good morning, Chair, honorable members, colleagues. My name is Khomotso Poko, the CTO of Rain. Okay. To my right, I've got Conrad Lee, our COO. We've got Joe at the back there for Regulatory Affairs and Krista from our legal department.
Thank you very much. You've lawyered up for us. Can we get Telkom?
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Lungasio. I'm the CEO of Telecom Consumer, and I've got two of my colleagues as well that can introduce themselves.
Morning, Honorable Chair, morning, honorable members, morning, colleagues. My name is Nozipho Mngomezulu. I'm the Group Executive Legal and Regulatory at Telkom.
Good morning, Honorable Chair, honorable members, colleagues. My name is Lisa Zuabi, and I'm the Executive responsible for regulatory economics.
Thank you. That was Telkom MTN.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members. Jumelang. Charles Mulapisi is my name. I'm the CEO of MTN South Africa. I will let the MTN delegation introduce themselves. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, honorable members and colleagues from industry. My name is Dineo Molefe. I'm Chief Financial Officer for MTN South Africa. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members. My name is Graham de Vries. I'm the Chief Legal and Regulatory Affairs Officer for MTN South Africa.
Good morning, Chair. Morning, honorable members, colleagues. My name is Ramzi Mosetedi. I'm the General Manager for Stakeholder Relations at MTN South Africa. Thank you.
Good morning, Honorable Chair. Good morning, members. My name is Ernest Paul, and I'm the General Manager for Network Quality, Governance and Service Creation.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members. My name is Brighton Burur. I am the General Manager of Business Operations. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and honorable members. Songezo Khalakhala. I'm the General Manager at MTN for Regulatory Affairs. Thank you.
Thank you. Assuming that's everybody from MTN, may I go to Vodacom, please?
Thank you. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, honourable members. My name is Sitolizo Mdlalose. I'm the CEO of Vodacom South Africa. I'll allow my colleagues to introduce themselves. Thank you.
Good morning, Honourable Chairperson, honourable members, colleagues from industry. My name is Taikine Chitenje. I am the Director of Regulatory and External Affairs for Vodacom South Africa.
Good morning, Honourable Chair and members and colleagues. My name is Andrew Bardenser. I'm the Managing Executive for Regulatory Affairs and Public Policy. Thanks.
Good morning, Chair, honourable members. My name is Byron Kennedy, and I look after external communications for Vodacom.
Good morning, honourable members and everybody else. My name is Sandingwanda Mutsu. I am the Principal Specialist in Public Affairs.
Thank you very much. I think I have covered everybody. I did get a few apologies. The first apology was a letter that we received from the Group CEO of Telkom, indicating that he is traveling abroad, I think. They've just released their results. I do want to communicate, though, our displeasure, because this meeting has been moved 3 times, and I remember the last time we were moving the meeting was precisely because the CE of Telkom would not be present, and we said, let's wait for Telkom. But thank you to the members of the delegation who are here. We cannot be upset with you. You just put 540 million into the fiscus. So I also received an apology, in fact, a personal apology from the CEO of Cell C, Mr. Mendes, who also indicated a similar issue around investor roadshows. So to thank the delegation from Cell C who is here. I then received a very strange letter from Liquid Telecoms, which I didn't understand. I'm told that they do have representation in the room. It was not clear why Liquid was not going to be participating in today's session. Because I believe they've got representation here, perhaps they can then deliver their apology to the meeting. Thanks.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, honourable members and everyone in the room. Chair, I'm Valencia Risaba, Chief Corporate Affairs Officer for Liquid, responsible for regulatory. I'm with Craig van Rooyen, who's our Executive Business. We are in attendance at the meeting. What we did request, and it was a request from our CEO, was that we attend as an observer. And we would engage when needed, but we have honored the meeting.
Sorry, ma'am, could you please repeat that?
Sorry, honourable member. Yes, we did honor the meeting, so we agreed to attend the meeting. We were requested by our CEO that he was not going to be available. And based on that, he had requested not to present because he would have wanted to have done so himself. Representing him at the meeting today are myself and Craig van Rooyen. So it's purely on the basis that he personally wasn't going to be here, and he was under the impression that you wanted a submission from him directly, but he's willing to make himself available as and when required.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am. Do we have any other apologies?
Chairperson, the only other apologies would be from the Minister and the Deputy Minister, as well as the DG that is attending G20 in Limpopo. Those are all. Thank you, Chair. Ms. Makobele will arrive late. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And we confirm that we have a quorum to proceed with the meeting. Thank you so much. Colleagues, esteemed guests, honorable members, on the issue of, Honorable Subrate?
Chairperson, may I check if the regulator is represented here? Is there any presence of ICASA here?
The chairperson of ICASA has a bereavement. However, he did assure us that ICASA would have somebody present. Is there anybody present from ICASA? Perhaps we can just check on them, Mr. Ngoma, and find out what's happening. Okay, on the issue of the agenda, I think there was a program that was circulated. However, I've noted that members have requested a reorganization of the agenda. We were supposed to complete our business today by 5 o'clock, but there are members who need to be traveling, I think, as early as 3 o'clock or so. So with your indulgence, we are going to reorganize the program, and the members will tell me if I've understood their request, that we take all presentations, well, not at once, but we take all presentations at a go, and thereafter then have the discussions. And then from the chair, I have taken the discretion to reorganize the agenda in terms of size. So we're going to start with the association. Then Vodacom and MTN will fight amongst themselves who is bigger. The bigger will go first, and so on and so on. But on a serious note, then, that means if we're able to be succinct on time, and it's now 10:16, by 12:30, 12:45, we should have completed all of the presentations, and thereafter maybe shorten the lunch break so that we can have discussions. I think at the very latest we'll push for conclusion by 3 o'clock. Can I check if we have a mover for the adoption of the agenda with those amendments? Thanks.
Chairperson, I move for the adoption of that amended agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. May I have a seconder?
Honorable Matafa, I second the proposal for the agenda. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, honorable members. Maybe then, without wasting any time, let's get into the presentations. The invitation that we had sent to the association, as well as the MNOs and the telcos, had requested that we meet today and engage on a number of issues. The first one was on the contribution that the sector is making to the attainment of the National Development Plan goals, particularly universal connectivity by 2030. We then asked for a presentation around issues relating to the contribution or measures to reduce the cost of communication, particularly the data costs. We wanted to inquire on issues of transformation, job creation within the sector, the issues of the universal service obligations, the spectrum conditions, as well as compliance with, amongst others, the conditions of the Competition Commission. So that's the broad framework. Obviously, members would have particular areas of interest that they want to speak to, and I think during the course of the conversation that will come up. May I hand over to you to kick us off, CEO?
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, as the ACT first, as you started off, would like to acknowledge the recent floods that have happened in the Eastern Cape, especially in the area of Umtata. And as you know, as somebody that hails from that province, this has actually affected me personally from a family level. So we are saying that our thoughts are with the families who have lost loved ones and with the communities facing difficult tasks in rebuilding homes, school, and infrastructure. Chairperson, as well, would like to extend our condolences to you and your family at the loss of your uncle, Umtu Omkhulu Uwile, sithi nxe kuwe nosapho aluhlanga lungehlanga sisi. We know that the past few weeks have brought sorrow to many, and we keep all those that are grieving in our thoughts. On behalf of ACT and its members, we extend our deepest sympathy to yourselves as the Portfolio Committee and other members of Parliament, including the family of the dear Honorable Petros Tole, We remember him very well as a person that was dedicated and who actually was genuine about equitable access to communication services. And he has actually left an incredible mark on some of us that we have encountered. Beyond the parliamentary duties, some of our team members at ACT remember him as a gentleman, as somebody who offered always a thoughtful counsel. He carried himself with grace and humility, Chair, and was always prioritizing the voices and needs of the people of South Africa. That's what we remember. Our thoughts and prayers are with his loved ones. During this painful time, may his memory endure as an inspiration to stand firm and service in terms of compassion. So, Chair, I just want to go then to the point that you raised at the start when you were opening. Just to confirm, you will recall during the site oversight visit, we had a member of staff from ACT, and she is here actually today. I omitted to introduce her, Ms. Kanya Mase Mnyatsi. She's here. After that meeting, there were two things that were outstanding. There was the issue of connectivity, and there was the issue of voting, that during voting there was issues around connectivity. So as ACT, we took initiatives twice. The first one was on the 2G, 3G connectivity. We spoke to the municipal manager, Mr. Mase, ironically, Mr. Basil Mase at the time, and we connected him with Mr. Anati of MTN, and they were assisted. And to us, that matter at that time was resolved, but we know due to these floods, other issues have cropped up. Over and above, Chair, you will recall at that meeting, there was the issue that there was issues of connectivity during voting in certain areas in the Eastern Cape. We have met with the IEC. We have asked the IEC to share their plans for the next upcoming elections as to where they will be and what sort of assistance do they need from our members so that we can share the same with them. So that's the work that we've been doing behind the scenes. So I just wanted to, so that you don't think the oversight just happened in a darkness and we did not action anything. Chair, I will not bore you with the first 3 slides because those ones are just talking about who are my members, what do we do, what is our vision. My members are here, fortunately, Chair. So, Chair, I just want to respond to some of the questions that you've asked. So we don't want to hide it. We're saying that just this past financial year of 2024, our sector's revenue had increased by just over 11%, which was reaching 223 billion, which actually saying this represents approximately 5% of South African GDP. And then we're saying our sector as well has contributed, and this needs to be always be, you'll see there, we've contributed the 14.4 billion in 2022, for the high demand IMT spectrum auction. And then you'll see the recent results of Stats SA that South Africans, 72% of South Africans have access to the internet via mobile devices. And then we say, confirm, Chair, that according to the records that we have, the sector employs in excess of 30,000 people. And we do recognize that whilst the levels of employment have remained relatively stable, this is, the sector has been impacted by other issues that have been in the sector. You will see on this side, insofar as the infrastructure spend on the middle part, there, Chair, you'll see that as the sector, the last 5 years, the sector has spent in excess of 143 billion just on infrastructure. Out of that 5 billion, you will see that in 3 years, just to augment in terms of capital expenditure on alternative energy, because we were faced with the issue of load shedding. The sector, and when I say the sector, I'm just talking about the 5 people that are, the 6 people that we, because that's the data that we have most of the times, that they have spent in excess of 5.4 billion in alternative energy solutions. If you think about it, your solars, your diesel, the most spent has been on diesel. You will see on your right that just in 1 year, diesel spend was at 1.2 billion just to cap off load shedding. Here we had made an application to National Treasury. We'll see later on that we've asked that this be, we have the sector enjoy a diesel rebate. And then the last part of that, you will see that the sector has spent in excess of 202 billion on procurement, especially BE and SME compliant companies within the South African context. This is an increase, as you see, of 14%. Then on the right, Chair, on my right, sorry, because I'm looking this way, we just want to confirm that schools, universities, and related services do, upon application, enjoy a 50% E-rate fee that they can apply and enjoy with our members. A number of universities have taken this. Over and above, there is the zero rating of websites by the same institutions, institutions such as universities. I know not all universities have taken this up, but it's an offer that ICASA proactively has even published a gazette to make sure that this is done. Chair, you will note that insofar as connectivity of services in terms of public service institutions, the requirement is that 21,878 PSI will be connected, being the bulk of them being schools. I will talk to that in detail in the presentation. And you will see, just lastly, the last one is on the issue of universal service and access fund contributions in the last 4 years from 2021, how much those contributions, I need to be clear, they not only the 6 members, it will also include other people within the sector that have contributed to the fund. I will speak into details as to what that is entailing. Next slide, please. So, Chair, here, in terms of the local trends and in terms of the question that was raised, so we are saying that our sector is actually facing and undergoing significant transformation, right? Due to the changing business models that they're currently competing against. These, you will see that there is a lot of disinvestment from core services. If you want to talk about core services, we're talking about like basic telephony. So you'll see our sector is moving to other alternatives such as fintech, and they are also dabbling in terms of the audio space. They're running some sort of more broadcast-like services because the convergence and competition is dire. It's there. So you will see that is what is happening. They are continuing, Chair, to invest heavily in terms of network expansion, especially 5G and fiber. It's not only 5G. You've seen some of the issues that have happened. If you think of the transactions that have been happening, that there is that drive to make sure that network is expanded. And then we do note there that there is a lot of pricing pressure, right? And especially with new services being introduced within the market. And then there is, they're facing, I'll say, when you look at the members in terms of, and I will look at them selfishly because that's what we're doing, that, for instance, that what they're facing is that there is MTN has started, and their couple of years ago, their investment on 5G, and Vodacom as well. And you saw recently, Cell C has recently launched their 5G services. That is not cheap to start. That's why Cell C started very late, because you have to call in investors to come in. And then you would have seen Telkom. Telkom has been in the news, sharing the good news about not only about their financials, but they have been consistently expanding their coverage, especially on LTE, in going into townships and related areas. And then you see one of our members, Liquid Technologies, as well. They have been currently doing a lot of cost optimization in terms of their group, which has affected the South African market as well. So the things that we want to say as well, things that influence how the sector invests is the political and regulatory uncertainty, because there's so many things that keep coming that are either unfinished or they are not being done. And I'll speak further to it, such as you'll see later on. When we're talking about political and regulatory uncertainty, there was a period that we noted as ACT between end of end of last year and around March this year, about a period of 6 months, that the uncertainty was so real that no decision was being made. And that has an impact, that no decision was being made. You're just writing you sending letters into a dark hole. There's no responses, especially from a regulatory point of view. We've noted the issues around partnership activities. You would have seen most of our members are entering into partnerships. There is a rise of a lot of NVNOs. We welcome those because it shows the maturity of the market. You would have seen there's somebody that says the newest mobile network, if you're in Gauteng, Melon is there. You would have seen the Capitex of this world. The competition is there. It's ripe. So we are also saying there are market disruptors, such as the OTTs, the over-the-top, and the low Earth orbit satellites. The over-the-top services for us are one of those things that adjust. You will see in the presentation later on. We're saying that there is no fair licensing regime in South Africa. Everyone is looking at those people that came into South Africa in 1994, they came into South Africa early 2000, and to over-regulate them. And anyone else that comes into the market in South Africa is having a nice time with no or little regulation. The reason is because we do not understand what they are doing, we're just consuming. Then the issue of AI, that is one of the things that those trends needs to be there. Chair, we have dealt with the issue of the ICT sector and the NDP. Here, we're saying that we do recognize that the sector has been recognized as an enabler, as a key sector in terms of innovation, job creation, and global competitiveness. Supposed to be the next slide. And then, the NDP in itself, I think you skipped it, actually is the one that will tell you that there is a need to make sure that there is investment in infrastructure, broadband and mobile connectivity in order to have greater digital inclusion. And this, my members are doing. Chair, this slide, you keep moving this, yeah. Yes. So here, we're just sharing what we have done just to make sure that things are moving within our sector. So in terms of policy and regulatory review, the ECA amendment, we do note that the ECA was withdrawn for good reasons. It was withdrawn by then Minister Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams. And we do recognize that, yes, the ECA is outdated compared to other legislations that are out there, such as the EU, even our neighboring countries here. And then we're saying it might not even be fit for purpose, but we do also recognize that there are provisions that have not been utilized by the regulator that are already there in the legislation. But we're saying, please, please, do not amend the legislation in a piecemeal fashion, like do bits by bits, do a proper policy review, do your research, so that there's an entire legislation that is fit for our purpose in South Africa. Then, Chair, just by the way, the licensing regime and renewal, just to advise that some of the service licenses are expiring in 2028, right? This is causing uncertainty in terms of the terms and conditions thereof, that investors want certainty as to 2028 is around the corner. It might seem far. What is the issue? We've noted that there's a call for the application for IECNS licensee. We are not opposed to that, but we're saying, but your priorities need to be straight, right? There are people that have invested in the South African market, and those people require certainty. Whilst you may think 2028 is far, the reality is we've seen ICASA close some people that were operating in South Africa. So there is that anxiety. That is the reality. We did participate on ICASA's satellite and licensing framework in August. This, I must say, it caused us anxiety. We did present and we did tell ICASA it caused that as anxiety, but why satellite? We asked them, why satellite? Why now? Because there are more important things that you can do. Why are you choosing this sub-licensing category? And ICASA said they will publish a reasons document explain. So that is, and it's a long laundry list, but this is the thing that I just want to keep on top of mind. So here are the things that we are requiring, that we're saying that for a policy and regulatory review, this is a document that has been published by the presidency in 2020, and it tells both government, which I say like the Department of Communications, and regulators. It tells you when you are dealing with regulation, when you are dealing with policy, when you are dealing with legislation, ensure you're leveling the playing field. Don't create an uneven playing field. So we're just saying a level playing field is that says do not punish those that have been here and making them have onerous obligations. Each and every quarter, they are submitting compliance documents, and yet you have OTT coming into South Africa, no obligations. You have satellite licenses in South Africa coming in, no compliance, nothing. They don't do much within the South African context. Then we're saying the social economic impact assessment. This is explained in detail in this document of the president as to why you need to do it. And it has to be done thoroughly. And we know it costs a lot of money. It says before you make a decision, this is what you need to do. And we're saying that is what we would like to do to be done in terms of the policy, in terms of legislation. And notice not our like, it is there. It's a document that was signed by the president. It's there. So, Chair, you'll see there, we've tabled all the policies that we're saying are incompatible and outdated, like White Paper of 2016, the PC4IR, the Digital Economy Master Plan that keeps being done in different fashions. And then we're saying there on the ECA amendment, it's lacking on the OTT services, on other things that are coming. I say, please have policy alignment and ensure that there's effective collaboration in the sector. Then, Chair, just to share some of the work that we've been doing, I did come and present before you, Chair, when you had your workshop on I think, was it the workshop that you had at that, I think, that side of Western Cape. I'm never sure where it was. So, Chair, the challenges still persist, but we must commend government. It will be remiss of us not to commend government. Government has been really trying to hold our hand and listen to us and so forth, because we say South Africans deserve better. South Africans, rural South Africans, poor people cannot always be stuck on 2G, 3G, especially 2G, because 3G is being phased out. And we're saying, you'll recall I did the whole speech about smartphones being expensive, but now I want to say, what are the things that have happened? The things that have happened is that Minister of Comms did have a nice intervention with Minister of Finance, wherein the luxury tax on handsets that are worth 2,500 or less do not attract luxury tax. This is about 30%, right? But we would like it to go further. We would like it to say no VAT, because that means it's not, for us, it's not going far enough. But we're saying it's a start. And we have also engaged ITech to make sure that the importation of older devices do not enter the South African market by a certain date. So they are going to start their consultative process in this regard. And Chair, I have left with Hajira for all your members our paper that we did on the best manner on how to transition people from 2G from 2G, 3G to 4G and 5G. I've left the paper here so that you can read it. You know what is happening elsewhere. You're not listening from us. So we are happy with the engagements that have happened in this instance. So because it's for the better of South Africans. Then here, Chair, I want to say the words that I want to use. I said, this is a challenge. Over-the-top services are here. So when I say over-the-top services, I mean those people that are using a lot of data, bandwidth, like your Netflix, like your YouTubes, like your TikToks. They are free riders. That's what I would call them. They are here to free ride in our country, and no one is holding them accountable. We, as the ACT, were saying that they need to be held accountable from a policy and regulatory point of view. And we are saying, over and above holding them accountable, we want them to, if there's no will to do that, they have to be, which has happened in other countries, they have to enter into interconnect agreements with network operators that are here in South Africa. Because what has happened is, remember, every time you consume a video, you complain and say, wow, the video is not good quality. Telkom is messing me up, Rain is messing me up, right? And Rain will update their infrastructure, but that infrastructure, no one is helping them to update it in terms of upgrading it. So we're saying they must contribute their fair share in terms of building infrastructure in rural areas. We're saying they must contribute. And we're not saying the money must come to telcos. They must build infrastructure. They cannot just come and only offer services. You subscribe to Netflix, you are happy when there's a price increase, but you do not know what is the impact in our economy. Chair,
CEO, reminder of your time allocated,
Chair.
please.
Chair, I just wanted to say we're progressing well here on RICA SIM registration. I will allow you to read this on your own. We are working very closely with Department of Justice. However, we had a risk that we faced in terms of the amendment of the Identification Act amendment by Minister of Home Affairs, which is causing an increase in terms of accessing accessing their e-harness. Then I'll come to transformation developments. Chair, these are the transformation developments in terms of EAIPs and policy development. And we're saying, as ACT, we will make our submission to the minister on the policy directive that he has put up. And I must say, just for the committee, the part that we're not happy about is that it's focusing on new entrants. City, what about us, right? And that's the reality. And then they were showing that our members are level 1 contributors to BBBE, and we wanted to say our members are not only focusing on BBBE, also they're complying with the ECA as it currently stands on 30%. So there has to be, something has to give. And then we're just saying, we did the transformation fund document that was published by DTI. We made our submission, we made our inputs, just how it can be improved. So, Chair, we can have the discussion there. Then, Chair, insofar as I want to go to I think this is towards the last slide, the obligations. So, Chair, I wanted to make the example of Universal Service and Access Fund. I did talk about it, the Universal Service and Access Fund. We do recognize that USASA as an entity has to write a business plan for them to get access to this fund. As a sector, we do not know how the funds are being utilized, and it's not an USASA issue, it's a wider government issue. We're not blaming USASA. I don't want to be misunderstood, because USASA only gets the bare minimum. But the same with USASA, they need to come up with better plans insofar as making sure the money goes to where it's intended to, instead of doing other projects that government is busy with. So by example, in 2023, 2024, USASA, Universal Service Fund was at that amount. USASA only managed to get from National Treasury 221,000 rands. So maybe it's a capacity issue, whatever, I'm not sure. Chair, this side, I don't want to go into detail on the social obligations, but to confirm that we formed a PMO with the CASA, DCDT, especially the DG. There were challenges in this regard. Insofar as the data that was there, we spent an entire year cleaning up the data. My members have been committed in terms of rolling out the public service institution rollout of the obligations. However, Chair, the issue has been, I need to put it on record, it has been, we had issues with Department of Basic Education in terms of them rejecting some of the obligations as to how they needed to be implemented. We thought we find each other, and then we are not finding each other because they're claiming other things that happened many years ago. So, Chair, I just want you to have that. Our members are going to speak to it. Chair, I was just here demonstrating the engagement that we've had with the CASA on social applications and the timelines, what we have been trying to resolve. So, Chair, we're spending a lot of time, right, colleagues? We're spending a lot of time and money in meetings instead of making sure the service goes to the people. We're spending a lot of time and effort cleaning up data that you will find. They'll say, this is the school. For instance, MTN here, they were allocated a school. They found the school closed 5 years ago. They already hired a person. The person went there. The person needs to be paid somehow. So those are the things that happen in reality. So, Chair, I just wanted to give you that picture, just to lay the ground. Any other thing, I leave it to my members. And I thank you, Chair and honorable members. All the best.
Thank you very much, Ms. Baki. No, and you should laugh. You know, we didn't want to allow this presentation because we knew it would start off by defending everything. So well done on, on defending everything even before we start. Mr. Mdlalos, I take it you have reached an agreement and you will be going first.
Madam
And then they both
Chairperson.
put the mic on.
No, Madam Chairperson, I'm as comfortable. If Mr. Molapisi is willing to go, he's welcome to do so.
Thank you. Chair, we decided to go on who's the biggest in the continent. Chair, thank you to yourselves and the members. Good morning to everyone. I will join the CEO of ACT, Chair, in the passing of the condolences to yourself, but also on the passing of the member of the committee, the member of the IFP, Honorable Sithole. Chair, I'll also go ahead and say that we really do acknowledge and appreciate the opportunity to be here. I think I really speak without any sense of contradiction that the interest of the committee and the interest of the operators and MTN are converging. There is no disconnect on what the committee seeks to achieve and what the MNOs and MTN stand for. We're also very clear, Chair, that we're not coming here to present a picture of perfection. We are very much aware of some of the limitations, the things that you should have done that you continue to do. So there are definitely areas of improvement, and I think we'll be the first people to acknowledge that. But we also want to share with you the successes and the areas where we believe we have done a decent job, and I think areas where we believe we're going to need help going forward. I'll move and maybe just talk about the broad context. I'll touch on the context and also maybe outline to the committee our journey, the implication of social impact beyond connectivity that we seek to drive, and obviously going forward, how do we intend to drive digital sustainability and what are the challenges? If we go into the next chart, we have attempted here, I see the chart is not coming through clearly. We have attempted in the first chart, members, if you can see the presentation, to really give you a high-level summary of what lies in the deck. Okay, all right, okay. Yeah, so I'll quickly just maybe deal with a few things, Chair. We'll cover in the presentation where MTN is in terms of coverage. We believe that we have done a fairly decent job in terms of the progress that we have made. We'll cover some of the concerns we have around the ECA. We are asking, Chair, that the ECA, as the CEO of ACT has mentioned, that needs to be modernized. We're also making a very strong case around regulatory parity and the bottlenecks. We'll talk about spectrum sharing and limitations where we need the support. We'll talk about what we need to do around smartphones. We believe that we have made decent progress, but there's more work that we need to do. Population coverage, the level of investment that we have made into the market, and we'll cover the level of spend, where we spend the money, and where we need to be able to improve going forward. As I go and give you the context, I'll first start with the MTN leadership. The MTN leadership chart will showcase the extent of the transformed team that we have. Yeah, okay. So if you look at the MTN leadership, we're really proud, Chair, about the profile of transformation and the team profile that we have. If I go on and maybe just touch high level on where we are positioned and the things that we have managed to achieve. Today, the MTN brand is, for consistently for a number of years, been the most valuable brand in the country and in the continent. We're very happy and proud about our level 1 BU contributor status in this market. In the past 5 years, this company has delivered 58 billion rand of tax contribution. We're very happy about that. We believe that our role is very clear in terms of the contribution to the fiscus. In the last 10 years, we spent about 95 billion rand, so make it 100 billion rand of spend on the ground that we've invested in this market. And obviously, as we make the statement, the questions will be, where is the money going? Are we spending the money in support of local suppliers? How much are they sharing part of the pie? And Chair, I'll say that, I'll cover a few points there, but I'll say that except equipment costs, which most of equipment are imported equipment, most of the money is spent in terms of local suppliers who partner with a number of players. This is a significant investment. This business invests on an annual basis an average of about 9 billion rands every single year at a capital expenditure level, which is very significant. We have covered South Africans about 99% coverage in terms of 2G. And I do know that when you say 99 is an aggregated number, there are areas where we still have work to do. And I'll quickly say that areas in KZN, there's more work we need to do in that particular area. There are areas in the Eastern Cape, and you've mentioned that. The Eastern Cape is a very important market for us. It's one of our best markets, so we need to make sure that we support that. So there are areas of improvement in that particular space, so we acknowledge that. We carry about 4,000 employees in terms of the permanent workforce of the business, but we operate with over 600 partners. It's a business that is primarily based on partners, and most of these partners, we've got black-owned companies, fully female-owned companies that you work with. So the entire ecosystem of MTN, in terms of the number of partners, we do a lot of business with a lot of our people locally. Let me touch on the NDP. I guess what I'm just trying to demonstrate to the NDP, the plans for 2030, connectivity and infrastructure of universal coverage, that the interest of MTN and the interest of the NDP are in convergence. We also want to drive connectivity across South Africa. We've made significant level of investment, like I've indicated. We also believe that the sustainability of MTN is based on affordable communication. Our people who are not employed need access to digital services. We share the interest and the aspirations of the NDP in terms of affordable communication, and I'll talk on that. We see ourselves, Chair, and committee members, as a partner of government. We understand that in the end, when all is said and done, we are here to drive the same goals. There might be differences in some areas, but in essence, the core part of why we exist is an alignment with the interests of the government, and we align with that. On innovation, we're very happy about the work we're doing around innovation, whether it's IoT, our 5G rollout. We've got over 45% of South Africans under the banner of MTN 5G. We're very happy about the work that we're doing. Investment in data centers. We're very happy about the level of contribution from MTN. On education, significant amount of investments in terms of the platforms that we're doing in supporting the NDP goals. So clear alignment on the ambitions of the government and where MTN is going and where MTN is today. Let me touch on population coverage. I do acknowledge that this can be a very contentious point. The population coverage of MTN today on 2G, we are sitting at 99% 2G coverage. We're sitting at 98.9% on 3G coverage and 97.8% on LTE coverage. The 3G coverage, like the CEO of the ACT has mentioned, that we intend to decommission the 3G network in the next 2 years. And let me make a point why. Today we have a 2G layer, we've got the 3G layer, we've got the 4G layer, we've got the 5G layer. We need to collapse the number of layers on the network to try and make sure that we can manage effectively the deployment of capital in terms of the investment on the network. We're also happy that the committee will be happy to know that we've invested significantly in 5G. We're sitting on 44 to 45% coverage of the 5G network, and we intend, as we go forward this year, to accelerate the level of investment in 5G. It's a very important technology for the provision of services, particularly for what we call home or fixed wireless access technologies, to drive more access for people in terms of home access connectivity. We've put 95 billion rands on the ground. 75% of this 95 billion rand has been spent on network expansion and resilience. I'll cover a little bit more on the network resilience and how much we've implemented. And we've increased now the penetration on the 800 megahertz band, which was awarded as part of the spectrum auction at 35%. I want to maybe highlight to the committee members why it was so significant that we have the auction that we had. In the absence of frequency, this country went for a very long time without the awarding of the frequency. Chair, without any blames, this has set us back in a number of ways. When you don't have the frequency, for high frequency, you end up having to overbuild the number of sites. When you overbuild the number of sites, you incur a lot of cost. That impairs the pricing in the market. So that delay has actually affected, the number of MNOs and all of us in the industry in terms of provision of services and the overall cost to communicate. I want to talk about, there were questions around the load shedding and vandalism. Now, this was and is still a challenging aspect of our business. We just share some of the images of what we deal with on a daily basis. Where a number of our sites, and I think this is suffered by pretty much every one of the MNOs today. We would like help, in any way that the committee is able to recommend and assist, will request any form of assistance. This level of vandalism destroys and service continuity in many of our areas. Many areas where there's no power, when we provision these batteries and we lose them in the next 2 days, we have to reprovision them. I also say to the committee and the members that we spent as MTN over 4 billion rands in a period of 18 months to deliver the network against load shedding. Let me explain. This spend was not a spend for growth. It was just a spend to close the gap on what we had before, which was power. 4 billion rand spent to make sure that we deliver the services. So when we say we're committed to deliver service and quality of service to our customers, let's judge it in terms of the level of spend that we made during load shedding. Significant amount of money that we have spent that was challenging, and also around the issue of security. We're doing a lot of work around security. We're not folding our arms. We're putting a number of technologies. We're putting AI technologies. You're putting some of the batteries in bunkers, hardening the number of sites. So we're doing a lot of work. And I'd like to believe that I'm saying this also, with the other MNOs will align with that. If there's any area we can really ask and plead for support and help, is the understanding of the committee on the implication of security in our country and its implication on our network. But we don't say this and do nothing. We're making the right level of investment. We're using technology to address the areas that we're facing today. And hence, we're able to deliver the level of availability, even with the challenges that we face in the industry overall. If I go into the next chart, Chair and committee members, I am at pains in terms of, if I look at the implications of the level of poverty and unemployment in our country and what the result of that is in terms of digital access. If our people cannot have access to smartphones, all our interest and plans and vision will not be realized. a number of our people who are unemployed, who do need access to data. That will be a challenge. Now, the instruments of how we fix that, there's a number of things. We've launched as MTN the first of its kind, a smartphone, a 4G smartphone to be precise, for a price of 99 rands. 100 rands on the MTN network for the device that costs 800 rands for us. Why are we doing this? We cannot continue to leave the population and a number of our people on the network behind. We're working with our partners to say, if you've been on the MTN network for a number of years and we are still using a 2G phone, we need to get you on a 4G smartphone. And that's what we have launched. We're happy with the success and the progress that we have so far. We're partnering with a number of players in the market to make sure that we scale. We're talking to about 3.5 million MTN customers who are still sitting on 2G network. And if they're sitting on a 2G network, they'll never be able to access digital services. They'll be left behind in terms of the ability to browse and do homework, and for the children to be able to access material. That is a problem that we have to solve as a collective. We are making an intervention ourselves, but we are asking for the support, and I think the CEO of ACT made that point very clear, that the cost of devices, VAT on devices, as operators make the interventions, may we ask also that we get some form of support from you as the members of the committee on how we can be able to bring South Africans, in terms of inclusion. One of the key discussions is always the issue of the challenging discussion around pricing, and then maybe let's talk about that a little bit. We do get a lot of times in terms of the comparison of pricing, and if I was to be a bit more specific, reference of the market that will be made will be in Nigeria, a 1 gig data bundle cost X, and in South Africa it costs X, and why that is the case. South Africa it's got a population density of about 50 people per square kilometer. It's a 1.2 million square kilometer country. It's a large country with only 60 odd million people. So the density already is a challenge if you compare it with the density population of Nigeria. South Africa is the 9th biggest country in the continent, if my math is right, and probably one of the top 25 countries in terms of size globally. It's a large country. What that means is that we need to extend the footprint and the coverage to many people. And many of them are dotted, are not necessarily clustered everywhere, but they are dotted in many parts of the country. It means that we must break all our traffic and deploy terrestrial networks across the nation. It does have an impact in terms of the price construct. Chair, we're not making excuses around price. We've reduced price by 46% since 2019. But we're also saying that in most of the countries where the comparison gets to be made is that these countries were given spectrum, 2600 4G spectrum, much more ahead of us. Now, what this has done, like I said before, is that in the absence of spectrum, what we had to do was to have to build more sites, because the limitation of the propagation for spectrum means that you have to actually provision more infrastructure. More infrastructure provisioning means more cost. We can work together. We can work together to continue to manage the cost to communicate. But we do also say that we have many attractive offers that are not headline pricing, but that below the line the South Africans are able to enjoy. So, Chair, we do share the concerns and the pain around access. We share it in terms of device access, and we're making interventions. We also share it in terms of pricing to continue to manage the capex profiles of our business, but also make sure that we can bring more people to access our solutions. On the spectrum which was awarded, we appreciate all the efforts by government. That has enabled us to now work towards creating more cost-effective ways for access. We are now able to talk about decommissioning the 3G network, which we are on track to do that. It's very important that we decommission this archaic technology and work largely on 4G and 5G layers. So that's an intervention that we are making. We are committing to that. But we also are committing to, at some point, we need to get to a point whereby we'll be able to decommission the 2G layer network. But we need to get most of our people and all our people to access smartphones. And that we're going to need support and collaboration, Chair, and committee members to work with us to address that going forward. Universal connectivity ambitions by 2020. The CEO of ACT spoke about that. Fragmented municipal regulations, we need to address that, Chair. We ask for support. Device affordability stands in the way of South Africa moving forward. If we do not fix this problem as a collective, we are going to leave many of our people behind. We need to work together on how can we further remove tax, VAT on devices? How can we make sure that no other 2G device enters this market? And we try to bring 4G devices into the market. That will help us to be able to bring more people in terms of digital inclusion. Licensing uncertainty, Vuyo, our CEO of the association, mentioned that. We really need to move, Chair, with speed in terms of the monetization of the ECA bill. If we don't do that, we risk falling behind as a sector and as a nation. And I think also one of the things, a very critical aspect of our business is the frequency. We are making a case, Chair, that we need spectrum trading flexibility. We need to allow for a secondary market to trade the underutilized frequency. Let me remind the members that frequency is a finite asset. We need to manage it diligently, and I think one of the ways that we are asking for and we are pleading, Chair, to say if there are ways that we can move with speed to create a secondary market for spectral utilization, it will be very helpful. It will help us in other areas to provision services much cheaper, and the translation of cost saving should be able to be passed to the customers, relatively speaking. So that is an opportunity we have as a sector, as us together with government as a partner. In terms of the NDP, I won't over-litigate this, but I will still say enable spectrum trading. I spoke, you had the CEO of EC talk about regulatory parity. I think we cannot overemphasize this. Chair, we are very clear as MTN that we see the non-terrestrial players as partners. Like I always say that we are not fixated on one key player. For us, we see satellite players as one bundle. And Chair, also, I'm sure the committee is aware that in some of our markets outside South Africa, we've already done the partnerships with the likes of Starlink. I want to clarify and make sure that there is no contradiction of that position with the SA position. Those countries are managed by their own rules, by their own legislation. We have our own here at home that we have to deal with from a South Africa perspective. But there is no contradiction about the fact that we welcome in the market, we welcome competition, but we see them as complementary. And obviously the CEO of ACT spoke about OTT. I think we need to pay a level of attention on over-the-top players who are benefiting in terms of access to services and revenue without necessarily setting presence in these markets. We need to talk about that. Rapid deployment of infrastructure sharing. Chair will make an ask to say that as we continue to build, one of the things that MNOs faced is the continuous investment cycle. We're one of the few sectors that every single year we have to pump significant amount of capital expenditure. We have to meet the cycles of technology evolution. And one of the ways that we can get assistance is for the committee, our partners, ICASA, to allow us to co-build, to co-share. To be very clear, let me give an example. If Telkom wants to build in KZN in the rural areas, maybe MTN can run on their infrastructure and they can build, and then I can build in the Western Cape, in the villages, in the rural areas. We find some form of synergies there. We minimize the cost of infrastructure, and then we accelerate the deployment of infrastructure for our people. And I think that should be the goal. If we can partner ourselves, and we're allowed by the Comcom and the regulators to partner with Vodacom to say, let's build together to try and minimize the cost of infrastructure, because for sustainability of our business, we are asking that those instruments be made available to us. Chair, there is, I know this is also a key matter that concerns the committee, the IHS measure conditions. This is more specific to MTN. Chair, I'm happy to make a submission to the committee that we have largely been we align on the conditions. And I will welcome at some point maybe an opportunity for a further deep dive on areas that concerns the committee. If there are any areas of imperfection where maybe not areas are close, while we're meeting the scorecard, that doesn't necessarily mean that there are no areas of improvement. We acknowledge that. And we'll be very happy to have further engagements on that. But I'll say to the committee that 40% of the greenfield, which is the new sites that we built, are built by SMEs. We continue to work with them in terms of the provision of towers, and we're making relatively good progress in terms of the conditions that came with the approval of the IHS measure. If I talk about the universal service obligations, our scorecard says we've met the USO 100%. 380 million invested in the last 10 years. We've addressed the schools, 1,360 mainstream schools that will provide connectivity, 140 special needs schools, fully refurbished classrooms beyond the obligation. We've fulfilled that. Full solutions around laptops in the schools, printers, projectors, and many other solutions. Where we have work to do ourselves collectively, and I think the CEO of ACT touched on that, is on the social obligations. We're asking for coherence of the departments, the DBE and communications. We have very clear cases where we go to a school, the school is not ready, no clarity in terms of server rooms, which one we must refurbish, at what scale. I want to say very clearly that we support social obligations implementation, without a doubt. Can we get some form of support in terms of the coherence and the planning? Yes. If that was to happen, will we lean in and deploy a comfortable chair that will be able to achieve the ambitions? We share the same. I come from the rural areas of this country. I have a clear appreciation of the plight of our people. I'm not blinded by the city in terms of what the villagers, many of my family and relatives who live in these conditions, I'm very clear about the role that we need to play and cognizance of it. We're asking on this one that the operators are convinced and in unison that this we must do and we are going to do. We're just asking for a little bit more support so that we can manage the rollout, so that we don't incur costs unnecessarily trying to deploy because of challenges on the ground. Chair, I'm going to move quickly.
5 minutes left, CEO.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to move quickly just to close. On this chart, I'll pick maybe just one key point. There's a BE recognized spend of 43 billion rand that this company has spent. 17 billion of that is black-owned in a number of sectors. This is an audited and aligned with the BE spending framework. We've got about 1,300 SMEs, young entrepreneur program that we've implemented. 350 SMEs on the MTN database have received business development support. We are committed to it. Can we improve? Yes. We are not doing everything perfect. We are very clear about that. But we believe that the progress we've made is significant. If I go into lasting connectivity through the foundation, I'll quickly summarize in the next chart to say 2 million learners through the MTN plan and foundation have access to free online education. 6,450 university students participate in the MTN Digital Innovation Challenge. 4,300 devices that we have distributed to the learners. 1,800 unemployed youth digital skills training that we have done. And we have repurposed and connected over 500 multimedia centers across the length and breadth of our country. There were concerns that the committee raised around security, let's call it cyber security, which we believe that it will continue to be a challenge as we move into AI and distributed networks and cloud. I'm giving you here a figure of 1.5 billion rand. This program is a demonstration of MTN's commitment to deployment of cyber security, but this 1.5 was not an MTN South Africa spend alone. This was spent across the group. Why is that important? It's because the MTN group is one network. So when you spend money, we need to spend money across the entire network to fortress it. infrastructure resilience, perimeter hardening, security automation. We have done that. It's a broader Marshall Plan program sanctioned by the Group Board of MTN to make sure that all the markets are building proper and resilient infrastructure. Now we have to accept and also understand that this is a moving target of information security. The threat actors are at work daily trying to find loopholes, and we have to work very hard to stay ahead. We are not perfect, but I can assure you that a significant amount of money has been pumped into this program. And I would like to believe that this will remain a threat for every player, whether you are a bank or a retailer, an MNO, even government, in terms of cybersecurity. So our efforts must be united in trying to address this challenge. I'm going to move very quickly in terms of the work we're doing around energy into the next chart. We are very proud, Chair, on the work we've done around energy. We've deployed 5 megawatts of energy self-provision on campus. Very happy about the work we've done. And I'm also very excited that 23 of our switch centers and data centers we are now going to put solar infrastructure. We're aiming by 2026, we're going to put 7.5 megawatts of energy, clean energy on this infrastructure. We're very excited about this implementation. So we take the issue of energy transition very important, and we believe there's a case to be made about its affordability and the role it has to play for us and South Africa going forward. Areas of improvement on the next chart, I will close, Chair. Rural coverage, we have a work to do here, we'll acknowledge. We're working with our partners, we need to improve. We're asking for opportunities to co-build and co-share infrastructure that will help us to accelerate. Smartphones, we have a smartphone for all program. We're calling all MTN customers who don't have a smartphone. We say to them, come to our stores and get yourself a smartphone that costs 800 rands and get it for a price of 99 rands. New site builds, we're working with our partners. Enterprise supply development, more work we need to do in this space. We've done significantly, but I'm not necessarily pleased. I believe there's more that we can do. Social obligations all out, we're asking for support and coherence as we move forward. Chair, my last slide, as I close, I will leave this with the committee and the members, that South Africans can look at this business called MTN, and I can say that you can be very proud of what this company is and has achieved. 30 years after the dawn of democracy, the South Africans have built a multinational that's across the length and breadth of our continent. It started from here at home. I think as South Africans, with all our imperfections as MTN, I think the nation and its people can be very proud about this organization. We are committed, Chair, to universal digital access and inclusive development. We are very clear, and I say this on behalf of MTN management and the board, that we see ourselves as partners to government in delivering meaningful impact to all South Africans. That's what we see ourselves as. We say that everyone deserves the benefits of a modern connected life. Everybody deserves it. We promise as MTN, we say we'll continue to work with our stakeholders, our industry and regulators. We'll do so to identify and support improvements to regulatory framework. Chair, you mentioned the issue of Mthatha and the challenges of connectivity. We acknowledge that our service is a critical one to the existence of South Africans. That South Africans in their daily lives, as they do what they need to do, the connectivity and reliability of telecoms infrastructure, it is paramount. We understand and accept that responsibility. We want to say to the committee and the members and the nation and those who are watching to say, we as MTN take this responsibility very seriously. We want to close and say that with rapid evolution of technology, which you are seeing, the scale of technological evolution is a scale we have not seen before. Whether it's going to be AI, infrastructure development, what is called AI data centers, or what's called sovereign AI, cloud infrastructure, is going to evolve at a rapid pace. We want to partner with the government to make sure that South Africa is not left behind. We are committed to make these investments. We can only do so if we continue to work with the government as a partner. And where we have not done very well, let's continue to work together. Chair, that's why I stop. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CEO, for that detailed presentation. And I think the commitments, suggestions, and I think calls that you're making to all of us in the meeting. Could I then move over to Vodacom, please? Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Chairperson, and honourable members. I would also like to join my fellow CEOs in paying condolences to the families of those who've lost lives in the Eastern Cape. We also join, Chairperson, with the Honourable Premier of the Eastern Cape to stand with him in this time of difficulty, to offer our support as the private sector, as Vodacom, but also as the private sector, to ensure that the families who are affected do have the support that they require, but also to assure the chairperson and the committee that our teams are working around the clock to ensure that they can reach sites that have been damaged by flooding in the Eastern Cape, working with the disaster recovery teams to ensure that that is restored. So our condolences go to the families, Chairperson. Chairperson, thank you. I shall also continue in the light that was started. And effectively, Chairperson, what we have done is, I will just start very briefly on our overall purpose as a business, and then move very swiftly to the specific points that were raised to us. So as Vodacom, we really exist for one purpose. That purpose is to connect Africa for a better future. We truly believe that the power of our technology, together with the ingenuity of the human spirit, can actually bring real change to people across, whether in agriculture, in education, in health, and we've seen our technology do that. And so our purpose is to ensure that we are continually connecting for that better purpose. This really spans across the various areas that we operate in, but also has multiple themes and core pillars that we think are fundamental to our business. Some of those, and forefront amongst those, is really that we want to close the digital divide. We believe very clearly that this digital technology, in the way that it is rolled out, has the power to change small businesses, has the power to change a small trader in the village, has the power to bring education to a child who didn't have education books. And so we truly believe in closing the digital divide such that the technologies aren't just available for urban areas and so on, and those who can afford it. And so a lot of our programs are aimed at that. We look really at empowering our customers, and I'll touch across all these various elements at a South African level. But ultimately, the core pillar that undermines all of this as a business is that we can only exist if we have the trust of our customers. And so that theme, whether it's doing business ethically, developing our own employees, protecting the privacy and the data that we steward, and equally protecting the people, is a core element of how we operate. But Chairperson, let me go into the specific questions and areas that were requested for us to cover and give a little bit of an update on that. I'll attempt, Chairperson, with your permission, not to repeat elements that have already been highlighted by previous speakers. I think the slides are not showing clearly. I'm not sure if there's an issue with the... No, even the format, Chair, is not right. I don't know if you... But okay. All right. Chairperson, where we have been progressing towards achieving universal connectivity is really off the back of our investment in this country. In 2018, we made a commitment to invest, a pledge to invest 50 billion rand over 5 years in the country. We met that pledge, and at the most recent investment conference in 2023, or not the most recent, the 2023, we invested, or we pledged, a further 60 billion rand for the next 5 years. And this investment is really around ensuring that we can continue to develop and continue to build the network. And we've seen the progress of what we've built, for example, in 5G. Our 5G population coverage has moved from 20.6% in 2022 to about 51.7% as we exited last financial year. In 3G, we're now at 99.9% coverage, having gone up from 99.6%. And essentially, Vodacom has continued to invest in coverage and in capacity to ensure that people have access to the network. The one element, Chair, that I will touch on is the fact that while one can have the network, access to the network, and particularly data, can also only be by ensuring that that people have access to terminals and devices that can access the network. So I will touch later on our view on 2G and how we move into this world of data access for all, because part of that migration from 2G devices which can't access the internet to 4 and 5G devices which allow people to be able to use all that they can in all the different apps that are available and so on. Chairperson, the impact of legislation was one of the areas that was asked about us, and equally, in fairness, as with everything, there are some things that have been helpful. There are some things that perhaps could have been better. And possibly some areas where there is room for lots of improvement. The first, maybe just to highlight some that have been helpful. While it was late, the assignment of the spectrum supported the industry significantly. My fellow colleagues have explained the importance of spectrum in rolling out a network, that it's critical for effectively the efficient deployment of a network if one is to use the spectrum effectively. And so I think the assignment of spectrum in 2022 was a big step forward for the industry, and we have been investing to light up the spectrum or ensure that we're using it adequately to provide the coverage and deal with congestion issues on the network, which are very vital with the spectrum. Some of the policies that have been somewhat helpful, if we can call it that, is really the policies such as the inquiry into the impact of load shedding. The inquiry into the impact of load shedding was helpful, Chair, that, and we commend ICASA for leading that. However, it felt as though our speed in responding to that, in reflection, could have been a lot faster in ensuring that the coordinated response to deal with load shedding for the industry, to ensure that the network is maintained alive with regards to things like fuel rebates and so on, and all the different elements that would keep us able to keep the network up, could have happened a lot faster, and equally we could have seen through some of those areas a little bit deeper. And so while it was helpful, we felt the timing of it was a little bit slow, but equally didn't go perhaps deep enough in the way that it could have to deal with a national crisis for which our industry is a part of. So we ride off the back of the grid, and that's a major part of how we deliver services. The rapid deployment policy, again, the intentions are very good and clear in terms of ensuring that we're able to roll out and build much faster when it comes to things like way leaves, when it comes to permits and licensing to build new sites. Typically, those take a very long time. And so the rapid deployment policy has been helpful in terms of definition, but in terms of the effect on the ground, still has a way to go in taking root and ensuring that the operators are able to deliver sites, and especially coverage sites, much quicker than they currently can, through reducing application times for licenses and so on. One of the areas, Chair, if I can call it quite clearly, that has probably hindered is the effective utilization of the Universal Service and Access Fund. This is a fund that Vodacom, along with all the other operators, contribute to on an annual basis. And the ECA effectively had a vision for what this was to be used for. And this was really to be used for connecting underserviced areas, supporting the development of technology in schools and colleges and so on. But I think as that has progressed, the clarity on how those funds are utilized and certainly the efficiency and effectiveness could certainly be used much better. Chair, if I move on to the next, which is the next question, was really around the strategies for further reducing the cost to communicate. Andrew, can you check these slides? That was one of the key elements that was brought to us. And when you look, as the colleagues have said, over a period of time, the data rate, the effective rate, has decreased by 50% over 2 years. That's the effective rate that you see on the left. However, if you had to look at it at what you see at a retail price, what people actually see and actually buy, you can map it to some of the bundles. We've taken an example of a bundle which is, just for illustrative purposes, the 1 gigabyte bundle. That's one of the most common ones that's purchased or used in the market. One can look at that and see the retail price of that in 2019 was 149 Rand for 1 gigabyte of data. As we have become more efficient, as the spectrum has been deployed and given, as new technologies have come on, etc., you can see the progression in the headline retail rate. We had commitments as a business, but also as an industry, to reduce and lower the cost of communication. And so you can see a very dramatic drop, especially post the spectrum allocation, where 1 gigabyte of data at a retail rate was, in 2021, was 85 Rand. Today you can buy 5 gigabytes for 99 Rand. And essentially that gives a view of how the rate has moved over time. And looking back, the cost to communicate has continued to be reduced and to come down. And I think as we move continually more from shutting down some of the legacy technologies like 2G and 3G and so on, we'll continue to gain some of those benefits that we can pass on to the customers. The question, Chair, arises in that just before the slide before this, yes, the question arises around that's the progress that's been made, but what lies ahead and what plans do we have ahead? The first is that we must continue to invest in rural coverage. I support and fully endorse the view, Chair, that this will only be achieved effectively through sharing of that rollout, through ensuring that that rollout can be that we can invest effectively in it. And the way we can do that is ultimately making sure that we're building collectively and using the different infrastructures that we put up, that we share that infrastructure. But we have moved our rural coverage from 89.63% in FY23 to 95.4%, with a target continuing to 97%. I believe we can go beyond that with some accelerated initiatives that we could have, both by unlocking the Universal Services Fund, but also by deploying sharing initiatives a lot more strategically across the industry. That's the investment into the network. However, putting smartphones in people's hands is extremely important. One of the elements, and there are many elements, we continually invest into the phones that we sell to our customers to try and lower the cost for customers to gain access to those devices. But that being said, we want to commend National Treasury for the reduction and removal of the levies on smartphones. What we've looked at is innovative products which can ensure that people can afford a smartphone at the lowest possible barrier. We understand that many of our customers don't necessarily earn a monthly income. Some have a daily income. And so ultimately, how do we bring out constructs and products that were able to allow someone to even own a device as cheap as 5 Rand a day or 8 Rand 50 a day, that someone can own a smartphone that many other people can perhaps buy on a monthly basis or pay on a monthly basis. Where we've launched this product. It's called Easy to Own. There are others in the market that have launched, some like PEP have Phonium, etc. But this really does empower those who need to afford smartphones to be able to get a smartphone at a cost that they can afford. And these are the kind of strategies that we are developing and deploying and funding to ensure that we're able to allow people to access the internet. I've spoken about driving down the input cost, but that, Chair, is really one of the biggest drivers. I cannot overestimate that. Chair, when it comes to the universal service obligations, there are 2 sets, and just to clarify and give you a view of where that has gone, while these are obligations, as it were, we at Vodacom don't see them as obligations. We quite frankly see them as a part of our service to our customers. We see it as a part of our purpose of connecting South Africa for a better future. And so that example that I can give you is what you see on the left-hand side for the legacy universal service obligations, where we were required to connect 1,500 schools. We did that. We equally connected 140 institutions of people with disabilities. But, Chair, just to give an example and to highlight what I mean when I say these are merely obligations as a low bar, I think we go for a much higher bar than that. Not only did we connect the 1,500 schools that we were requested to, we connected an additional 1,500 schools, and so 3,000 in total, over and above our obligations. But it's how we do it, Madam Chair. It's not just connecting a school and leaving it. When the time came back, as per the obligations, for us to give back the schools effectively, which would risk some of the reduced maintenance and perhaps some of that infrastructure going backwards, we maintained our maintenance of those schools and still do way past the obligations were due. And so, Chair, I really wanted to emphasize the fact that for us, we don't see obligations as a low bar and a box to tick. We see it as a core part of our strategy and our purpose. That's the legacy obligations. On the right-hand side, the current obligations that came with the recent spectrum allocation and purchase. The total sites that were to collect are listed on the left-hand side. So the Department of Basic Education, that's the schools, the Department of Health, the libraries, the traditional offices. What you will see after having unlocked through multiple conversations that have been highlighted by previous speakers on some of the challenges. And some of the challenges we did face, Chair, were that our teams that we had deployed, that we were already paying a cost for, would arrive at an institution to connect. They wouldn't be given access to that institution, as an example, because there was disconnect between someone understanding where they're from, why they're here, do they have permission to be connecting this fiber, what are they doing there, and so on. And there are many other examples where this has been a challenge for us, but again, these problems are solved through collective involvement of the Department of Communications, ICASA, the industry as a whole, to continue to make progress on what we've been wanting to make progress, which is to continue to do the connections. And so I'm happy to report, Chair, that notwithstanding all those challenges, as at the end of May, we've connected 934 of the 4,000 institutions we are targeting to complete by the end of this year. We have no doubt that we will continue to connect and meet the obligations, and as we did with the first ones, go beyond the bare minimum. Chairperson, the point around contributions to bridging the skills gap and advancing digital literacy is an important point. It's an important point because when you look at the competition that the country and South Africa will face across the globe, you realize that access to digital education early is extremely important. And so one of the core fundamentals from a Vodacom perspective of what our technology has unlocked is this access to digital education. And so we've seen that as a key pillar for us. And so we provide free access to online platforms, whether it's our eSchool platform, where we've worked with the Department of Basic Education to ensure that the entire syllabus is available online, zero-rated for anyone who has access to it. And again, therein comes the importance of ensuring that people have access to smart devices or devices that can connect to the internet. So that is free of charge. We've got an eSchool platform. We've got a Connect You platform where millions of users are able to connect and use free data, zero-rated data across multiple public service websites, across job websites to be able to look for jobs and so on. And that's free to use across for our customers, including the zero-rated websites that we have agreed and continue to provide on that. But bridging the digital divide is also important for empowering more women to be able to access the internet. And so equally from that point of view, we have various programs like Code Like a Girl, where we take young girls and start to train them in robotics and coding so that they're able to feed into the STEM subjects as well and able to go into that with confidence. But also, for example, on gender-based violence, where we see that part of the challenge on gender-based violence is indeed the fact that victims of gender-based violence often have an economic reliance on the perpetrators of gender-based violence. And so part of the program that we look at when it comes to empowering women has been around training survivors of gender-based violence in ICT skills, enabling them to be able to run their businesses better, to start their businesses, to understand how to use Excel, how to do a CV, how to empower themselves with these digital technologies. And that's where we start to see the power of the digital technologies that we roll out. And particularly in education, if I look at that third pillar, education for us has been something we have continually invested in. Over the years, we start, and it's not just a once-off drop. What we do is we have, together with our partners, working with the Department of Basic Education, working with the Department of Social Development, what we have developed is an education ecosystem that starts right at the start, right when the children are young, through equipping early childhood development centers. We've equipped over 33 early childhood development centers across the country and across every province, where we effectively kit out a full computer center or provide laptops and tablets for the young children, even at the age of 4, to start interacting with digital technologies. In those kind of schools, of course, we do some of the things that we have the joy of doing, like getting rid of the pit latrines, perhaps putting solar on some of those and so on. But we started right at the start, at the early childhood development, and that flows into over and above the schools that we've connected that I mentioned earlier. We equally have over 30 schools across the country, which we call schools of excellence. These are schools that are kitted out and have complete IT centers. We ensure that ICT coordinators are placed in those schools in coordination with the Department of Basic Education. And those ICT coordinators are effectively helping teach and equip some of the students, because the challenge sometimes, you can put internet in a class, you can put the laptops there, but if there's no one to actually teach the ICT, then that in itself is a challenge. And so working together with the department has been a success at doing that. Our quality of service is something that we continue to invest in, and we've talked about, I won't repeat these, Chair, I think these have been well highlighted by the two previous speakers, and the assistance that we would see that we require here equally is really around the coordination on security and the disrupting some of the criminal theft syndicates that we have, but also the continued deployment of any spectrum that becomes available. SMMEs are a key part of how we deliver our services, and we're particularly proud of our record, our contribution to the economy when it comes to the SMMEs that rely on us. Overall, we have close to 20 billion rand per year that's spent on companies with over 51% black owned. However, when you look particularly at the smaller companies, Chairperson, the QSEs and the EMEs, we have over 318 suppliers that we spend close to 4.4 billion rand a year with, and over 692 suppliers that we spend over 2.1 billion rand with. These suppliers also benefit from some of the supplier development funding that we put into that. For example, we have very high health and safety standards, and if a small supplier can't meet those standards, we help train them and help skill them and equip them so that they can not only serve us, but they can serve others as well. And so that starts to become something that strengthens their business. We also pay this category of suppliers early. We know that cash is king when it comes to running small businesses. We collectively pay about 1.3 billion rand within 15 days per year, which is a big cash flow investment in what we do. Our development of SMMEs is also paramount to what we do. We partner with the Innovator Trust, which we have funded completely. The Innovator Trust has operated for 11 years, and specifically its mission is to support the growth of ICT businesses, to really ensure that we can build them on a sustainable basis. And I'll give you an example on the next page, Chair, of the types of programs that the Innovator Trust runs. We effectively take various things from youth internships. On the next page, it will show you that on youth internships, but also specific programs that build and help create these SMMEs to be able to be sustainable in how they operate. We've got two programs, the Hatch and the ITAP, and various elements of them where companies can come through and be built up towards that. And effectively become more sustainable. And some of the results are clear to see on the next page, Chair. On the next page, we just show you the type of impact of the companies that we've worked with. Just before this one, over 200 SMMEs are supported since inception, close to 50 to 60 SMMEs on average that we work with within these two programs to ensure that they can become more sustainable. And the youth beneficiaries from the youth incubation programs, as well as some of the training that we do, are actually the same youth that we then employ to deploy as ICT coordinators in some of the schools and so on. Data privacy was one of the points that was asked about, and this is a core area for us to ensure that our customers' data is so important, and the investment that we make in protecting our customers' data is equally important, Chair. So all the controls that we invest in are in place, both for our data, but also our customers who use us and rely on our data centers and so on. The power outages and vandalism, I won't spend too much time on that, Chair. It's been highlighted already. Needless to say, the amount of money, and I echo the sentiment of the MTN CEO, the amount of money that was spent in load shedding in terms of both on capital expenditure but also operational expenditure was to achieve the same result. All of that didn't take us further on coverage. It didn't take us further on extending capacity. All it did was secure the network for what it was already delivering. And hence, there is this catch-up that we'll need in terms of coverage and so on as we're able to better invest in that. I'll go to the last one, Chair. I can skip this one. It's really part of the same thing, which is the last pillar around energy and renewable energy and the things that we are particularly proud of in terms of the way that we operate. We believe empowering customers is key, but we do that in a way that protects the planet and continually makes our operations sustainable. There are various legs or various elements that we have, but one of the things that we are most proud of, Chairperson, is the virtual wheeling that we have signed with Eskom. We have signed a virtual wheeling agreement. A virtual wheeling agreement effectively allows us to generate renewable energy and be able to feed that back into the Eskom grid and basically be able to offset that from the multiple locations, all 15,000 locations across the country where we consume power from. That is a first for South Africa in terms of what has been developed collectively with Eskom that is now available. There's a virtual wheeling platform that's been developed and so on, and we believe that will contribute to renewable energy supply across the country. So, Madam Chairperson, there's been lots of progress. There's still lots to go, and we are again collective with what the Chairperson of the ACT mentioned, clear on the National Development Plan goals, and looking to continue to invest to meet those goals. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Thank you very much, CEO, for that presentation. Is everybody still okay? You don't want 5 minutes? You're fine. You're very good. Okay. Let's then proceed to the next presentation. Sorry, I'm not making any remarks on the presentations. I think when the members engage, we'll be able to do that. Mr. Stein, Telkom, thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. I think it's still morning.
Sorry. This remark I have to make. Before you start, can you clarify whether you found yourself, you're a state-owned entity, you are not, you still have schizophrenia? Thank you so much.
I'll plead the fourth on that one, Madam Chair. I think the shareholder would be able to do that. Good morning to everyone, and also our condolences to all the families in the Eastern Cape, and also to your family as well, Chair. We've got deep operations in that space as well, so we care a lot, and we're actually part of the recovery initiatives down there in the Eastern Cape. If I may, maybe let's go straight into, and I'm not going to go through all the slides, because we've submitted a lot of slides so that we can give you a lot more detail about what we do and who we are. I guess what you see in front of you is more so of a 200-year organization that you see that started way back in 1781. And I think for me, what's more important is how this organization, Telkom, has pivoted over the years to keep up with the changing technology in the world, but also to keep up with the changing needs and behaviors of our own society. And what you'd notice is in and around 2010, it was sort of a watershed moment for the organization where we pivoted completely from the old copper technology and invested in 3 businesses. And I'll talk about those businesses as well and what they do for the society of South Africa. It was largely investing in the fiber technology that we've laid out across the country. It was also acquiring an ICT business so that we can create one of the biggest system integrators in the country to help enterprises, public sector, and government to actually transform their own IT ecosystems. And lastly, we also started a mobile business. We were the late entrants into it, and we're proud of this heritage, and we continue to leverage on it to actually create a South Africa that's much more better. If I may go to the next slide. And what I was trying to highlight here was the 3 distinct businesses that we have within Telkom, because it's a group of companies, and purely because of our own heritage as well. We've got a consumer business, which I'm the CEO of, that focuses on delivering services to all the homes in South Africa, and also with mobility products, fiber products. And it's actually the old Telkom stores that you used to see, that used to deliver your, we used to call it the ringtone into your house, which was the phones, which we've evolved these days into a fiber network, but also mobile services. We also have an infrastructure business which is called OpenServe. That's really the business that actually digs up holes and lays out the infrastructure across South Africa. And I'll talk about what they've done in that space, because it is the backbone of really creating connectivity across the country. We will sell those services to other MNOs, operators, but we also monetize it ourselves through the telecom consumer business, where we sell directly to homes. And BCX, thirdly, is our system integrator. And what you see below is Gyro, which is literally our property business that manages all our properties, including the exchanges and buildings across the country, to ensure that we keep them up to date with the times, but also we invest them. We invest further in those businesses as well to actually create capacity for data centers and also to host our own network. I'm not going to talk to this one. I'm just going to go straight into the exam question that we're trying to answer here, and I'll start straight into our own contribution into the NDP, maybe the slide after this one. And really here we've sort of tried to break it down into the different sectors, right, and to just show our own contribution towards it. We support, we employ close to about 9,000 people across the country, and through those people as well, we support to the tune of around 72,000 families across the country, either directed through the 9,000 people that we employ or our third-party channels that we use to distribute our products, or SMEs that we do employ to actually help us build the infrastructure. And also on the economic infrastructure side, we've passed nearly 1.3 million homes on fiber. And what it actually means is that we actually have a fiber line into the curb closer to your house, where we can potentially just connect your house via fiber. And we actually now have reached over 23 million mobile subscribers as well. And we actually have a broadband penetration of around 85%. And I think some of my colleagues spoke to population coverage as well in terms of our own network. We've built our own mobile network, and that reaches about 85% of the population, but we're able to reach up to 99% using our roaming agreements or sharing agreements with other operators in this instance. And we have a telecom foundation that we've established over the years, and up to 2022, we've contributed, or we've invested close to about 200 million towards this. And I'll explain a little bit more around some of these. If we were to move on to the next slide. The next one, yes, please. What we're trying to demonstrate here is our willingness to actually work closely with the public sector and government to actually help them create certain capabilities that will bring digital services closer to the people. And one of those was to really zero-rate all government websites. And during COVID as well, we also started looking into public institutions, where we've zero-rated most websites from public institutions. And we've continued doing that up until today. And most of them are participants and actually have access to some of our educational platforms that we've created for them. Through BCX and OpenServe, we actually, and also our property business as well, because we own close to about 10 data centers where we host our own data, but we also host our clients' data. Through those data centers as well, we've started engaging with the various departments within government to see how can we actually help them with possibly creating what we call edge data centers across the country, where we're able to bring or host their data closer to their own offices. Part of why you'd possibly see in certain instances, and I'll say the Home Affairs, where they actually battle with connectivity issues, is that their systems are sort of heavily centralized in Johannesburg. And if we could actually help them to try and bring those services closer to those offices, it might improve the performances of those systems, because they're closer to home, but also the latency issues that they actually are dealing with. So we're having various engagements with the various departments across the country. We've also been chatting directly with the Reserve Bank, because they've actually started modernizing the payment system and actually evolving it to actually allow non-banks to actually participate in the national payment system. So working closely with them, as they're working closely with the Department of Home Affairs to actually create a national digital ID, which we think will be a key initiative for the country to try and actually improve how we actually onboard customers, via the RICA processes and or for banks for KYC purposes as well. So we're creating all of these capabilities and trying to leverage everything that we have to ensure that we can help the public sector and to help the public sector to actually connect a lot more people. Maybe let's go straight to our response to question 1 around universal connectivity. Go to the next one. We do believe that connectivity is a basic human right for all South Africans, and to that point, we invested heavily in actually pivoting and modernizing our old copper infrastructure into an infrastructure that is largely connected via fiber. And just between 2010 and 2015, we spent close to about 100 billion doing that. And every year thereafter, we spent close to about 6 billion really maintaining the current infrastructure, both fiber and mobile infrastructure, and actually extending it to ensure that we have coverage across the country. We actually also work with satellite and also microwave companies to create backhaul into some of our sites, but to also bring services to far-flung areas, right, where it's not commercially viable to actually use the other technologies. And as a result, we cover almost the whole country at about 99%, although our own sort of coverage is about 85 with about 7,800 sites. The rest of the other sort of 14%, we use our roaming agreements or sharing agreements with the other operators. And we've actually literally built a what we call a 4G network. We don't have a 3G network in essence, and we're deliberate about that because we could see the shifting behaviors of humans from really making a lot of voice calls into actually accessing the internet and consuming a lot of applications. At a fiber level, I spoke about it, we've deployed close to about 180,000 kilometers of fiber nationally, both national transmission, access network, and also to connect the homes. We've passed about 1.3 million homes, and we've actually connected most of those homes, at about 50% of them, they're actually buying the service from us. And this actually also focuses, that's fine. This also focuses on the different segment, segment customers that you could find potentially in rural areas, urban areas, and also in townships with our fiber rollout. We actually also connect the undersea cable that actually terminates in the country. We've got 3 stations, Mtunzini, Yesefontein, and also Melkbos-Strand. What it actually means is that all internet traffic that's coming into the country or outside of the country will actually carry it through these pipelines using our own connectivity as Telkom. And we actually work closely with our neighboring states as well to actually provide them with backhaul capacity, but also connectivity into the same undersea cable via South Africa and all the neighboring countries that you see. We actually have been working closely with satellite companies in the geospace, largely to actually backhaul into our own sites, but also to create connectivity in areas that are far-flung and deep rural. As you'd appreciate that back in the olden days was when Telkom was a fully fledged state-owned company backed by government funding, would actually rolled out copper into every home in South Africa, even post-1994, as with the evolution of technology and also the migration of people from rural areas into urban spaces. When we're actually evolving the technology from the old copper to fiber, we find it difficult to actually getting into the far-flung areas. And for those purposes, would use technologies such as satellite to get into those areas to ensure that we do deploy some sort of connectivity. It's not sufficient enough, members of the committee. That's why we are also here to also plead our case as to try and see if there's potential that we can work closely with government to actually help the industry in getting into those areas as well. We also do see the LEO satellite providers as well as complementary services that we can potentially work with to actually bring connectivity to those deep rural areas as well. Just on SA Connect, we also work closely with government as well and SA Connect to try and see if we can connect up to 40,000 government institutions. We've connected a lot of government institutions. We've just renewed the contract with CETA to actually evolve a lot of what I call public sector organizations such as the the police stations, the clinics, and the hospitals in deep rural areas to actually move them off copper into fiber. And obviously that process as well has to follow the government procurement processes. It takes a bit of time. We do engage closely with them to try and see how can we actually accelerate this much faster. As you'd appreciate that it actually delivers core services to some communities, especially when the police station is unreachable and or a clinic, you can't even call them, even if you have connectivity, because what tends to happen with the old copper lines, they get stolen a lot and it becomes an expensive exercise to actually replace them. But when you do have fiber, you don't get a lot of damages because there's really no after use for fiber, whereas copper, there's a lot more that people could potentially use it for. Just on our contribution with regards to really lowering the cost of connectivity, I mean, you'd appreciate, I mean, in and around 2010, it used to cost at around $99 per gig of data. These days, you could potentially buy it for $79. Obviously, like any other operator, this is more like a headline price that you see. However, the below line price when we've acquired you as a customer is actually much lower than that. It is not an easy exercise to try and achieve these prices as input costs continuously grow or increase on a daily basis. And you'd appreciate that when we actually do have outages, let's call it electricity outages, we actually have to back up our sites using batteries and or diesel. So whenever there's an increase in the petrol, in the price of diesel, it actually increases our price of actually managing the network. We actually have vandalism as well, and batteries getting stolen, and the cost of replacing a battery contributes towards an input cost of actually pricing a gig of data as well. And the far the network goes deeper into rural areas, the more expensive it is to actually service those sites. And we're actually not complaining about that, but we're actually saying that we actually do try our best to ensure that we create connectivity, we create access to the internet by really trying to keep prices low for consumers and actually allow them to be able to afford these services and also have access to the internet. If I may go to, maybe I won't touch a lot more on the USO and spectrum auctions obligations. I just want to repeat what my colleagues have actually said on this one. We also don't see it as an obligation, but it's core of our own business because this is what we've been doing through our own foundation as well. And we've really encountered a lot of challenges, which we work closely as an industry through ACT, but with the department as well, and also the Department of Education to ensure that we can clear up any hurdles so that we can start rolling out these services as quickly as possible as well. If I may go straight into just the quality of service as well. This one, I won't really repeat what my other colleagues have spoken to this one. There is minimum requirements that everyone has to abide by. That is not a target for us. Our target is to actually do better in this instance. We always ensure that we monitor the quality of the network in many areas where we deliver the service. And obviously you have to deal with challenges such as outages or when you have vandalism in sites. You might actually think that the network is not available, but it's because the base station itself has been vandalized the previous night, and you actually have to try and see if you can go and repair it as quickly as possible to provide services to the people of that area. We participate in also cross-functional, or I'm going to call it cross-departmental initiatives, where Transnet and or ESCOM have actually pulled multi-functional and disciplinary teams across many departments to help with initiatives to try and reduce the crimes that's been happening in our own sites. If I had to go to just our own implementation of some of the initiatives in helping SMMEs in South Africa to grow, we do not see this as an enterprise development, type of initiatives, but more so as an initiative of actually trying to scale up small businesses to become medium enterprises. So we actually incubate them. We have a program called Future Makers, where we've actually impacted close to about 2,600 of these SMMEs that are supporting close to over 200,000 people across the country. We incubate them, we find them funding, we fund them and give them grants in certain instances. When they've really created a business and have a service to actually sell, we then do employ them as our own service providers within this space as well. And part of what we've done just quite recently, we used to own most of our retail stores across the country. We've then incubated a lot of SMEs to become future entrepreneurs and franchisees, and we've actually allocated most of those stores to those guys because we do know as well that they can buy them directly over a 5-year period where we give them a right to operate a store and actually grow themselves as businesses. And beyond the 5-year period, they could potentially own the store and it becomes theirs completely. So we do that across the business. When we do lay out fiber across the country, from people that are digging holes as well, we do look for people that are actually working in those communities, SMEs that we can actually employ and give not just jobs, but give businesses, because what we want to do is for small businesses to actually grow and become sustainable businesses going forward. If we were to go to our initiatives in addressing the digital skills gap and promoting digital literacy across the country, we actually have an educational tech platform that we've created called Lightbulb, where we actually curate and actually acquire content, educational content for matriculants across the country, but just largely high school students that they can actually access. And we discount the data, and in certain instances, it's actually data free because we've zero rated some of the platforms. And it actually helps a lot of students to actually acquire a lot of content online. And through some of our provision of services to the Department of Education, where we actually provide connectivity to matriculants that are actually using tablets, via that process as well, we actually push the platform for those matriculants to access other content that they would necessarily have to go into an internet cafe to access via this platform itself. If you go to the next one, and you'd see the impact, basically, that we're having in the basic education space, where we literally have close to about 58,000 direct beneficiaries. We also work closely with teachers as well across the country, because it's one thing to actually give school goers access to connectivity and building an ITC hub in a school when you don't have teachers that can actually teach these computer skills. So we work closely with teachers to actually help them gain more skills and actually give them the ability to teach to school learners ICT skills, basic computer, how you create applications and coding as well. I'm not going to spend too much time, if you go to the next slide, on the impact of load shedding, but I mean, what we're trying to demonstrate here is that when you, at different stages of load shedding, you actually have a huge impact. And over the years, we've spent a lot of money on alternative energies such as solar, batteries, to a point where we even employ things such as epoxy to protect the batteries inside because they get stolen a lot. To really reduce the impact of load shedding. Touch wood, we haven't had much of it in the past 2 years, although beginning this year we saw some sort of scary moments where we started seeing it coming back. However, I think so far so good in this instance, so we're able to really protect our infrastructure and provide basic services to the people. But it is a costly exercise when we actually have to actually invest in backup power. We actually also in the process of really creating or converting some of our landfills that we have across the country into solar sites, where we could potentially use it for our own infrastructure, but also will it back to ESCOM. I've spoken to this one, vandalism. I've also touched on this one as well. Let's just go into our investment into green and renewable energy for sustainability. This is the one where we're actually looking at all our properties across the country with the potential of actually converting them into alternative energy sites via solar. That we could potentially use for ourselves, but also to wheel back into the national grid as well. And at this stage, I'm also happy to hand over to my legal colleague as well, just to take us through just the impact of legislature, policy, and the regulatory framework as well, quite quickly.
Thank you, Lunga. Thank you, Chair. In the time remaining, Chair, I will attempt to address the committee's questions relating to, as Mr. CEO said, the applicable policy and legal framework. These questions are broken up into 4 parts mainly, and they are, the first one is the extent to which the current legislative policy and regulatory framework impacts our ability to support the achievement of the goals enshrined in the NDP. The second is the challenges and opportunities relating to our license terms and conditions. Third is our compliance with the directives issued by regulatory authorities, including the Competition Commission. And lastly, I'll end off by looking at the measures which we have adopted as an organization to safeguard data privacy. I also won't go through some of the stuff that has been discussed already by Mr. CEO as well as our other colleagues. I'll just touch on that which is outstanding. Now, Honourable Chair, I again reiterate that Telkom has been and remains committed to supporting the objectives set out in the NDP. This is evidenced by the investments that we've made in the sector, which Mr. CEO has already highlighted. These investments have ensured that Telkom is able to provide a variety of services to people and businesses across South Africa. Telkom has adopted measures aimed at bridging the digital divide, and this has required us to implement measures specifically aimed at expanding our reach beyond urban areas and actively working at reducing the cost to communicate. While the investments that we have made have heavily contributed to our support initiatives, it goes without saying that for us to continue with such investments, the legislative policy and regulatory framework applicable needs to facilitate such further investment. To this end, it's important for government to continue to work together with us to ensure that the applicable policies and applicable frameworks remain fit for purpose and facilitate growth and innovation within the sector. I'll now take you through some of the key issues which have impacted our ability to provide a more meaningful impact and which therefore require further engagement between ourselves and government. The first issue is spectrum. Now, it's common cause that spectrum is a scarce but critical resource. Telkom has used the spectrum issued to it to ensure universal 4G and LTE coverage. Now, while we have been hugely successful in deploying 4G and LTE coverage, it goes without saying that 5G coverage is still a weak point for us, and that this particularly impacts rural areas. The graphs in front of you, of course, show where it is that we are at in each province where 4G, LTE, and 5G coverage are concerned. To fix this, we will need additional spectrum, and specifically sub-1 gig spectrum. Without this additional spectrum, Telkom will have a great difficulty in making any further inroads in the provision of 5G services in rural and peri-urban areas. It is therefore imperative for ICASA to adopt measures aimed at ensuring that any spectrum assigned in future is assigned in a fair and equitable way that facilitates growth and competition in the sector. The second issue relates to way leaves. Securing way leaves, especially in smaller municipalities, remains a challenge. These way leaves are, of course, essential for purposes of us rolling out fiber in these municipalities. Obtaining way leaves has proven to be a time-consuming process and is typically impacted by hectic and severe procedural issues. Each municipality has its own fee structures, and at times the fees payable to the municipality are quite significant. In our view, the adoption of a standardized process that applies to all municipalities would greatly assist in addressing and resolving some of these bureaucratic issues that we have experienced. With regard to access to towers, we are also experiencing a number of issues with getting access to passive infrastructure like towers. The infrastructure is, of course, very critical for the deployment of our mobile radio equipment. In some instances, what it is that we encounter is that landowners do not want to give us access to the land, where it is that a tower has been constructed on the landowner's land. In other instances, the commercial negotiations around our access take an extremely long time to conclude. This all has an impact on our ability to continue with our network deployment efforts. Now, next issue, it goes without saying that business forums and the construction mafia have impacted a number of sectors in South Africa. Where we are concerned, these criminal groups have disrupted network deployment projects through extortion, intimidation, and sabotage. They've also impacted our ability for us to attend to network issues where it is that faults have been detected. Just by way of illustration, over the last 3 years, more than 2,000 sites have been vandalized, which have cost over 300 million to repair. Telkom has also seen an increase in the spend and security. This has been necessary to secure our sites as well as the equipment at the sites. In our view, stronger police intervention as well as greater cooperation from traditional leaders is required to curb these criminal activities. Moving on to the pro-competitive landscape, or rather, our competition landscape. Telkom has always advocated for a competitive market where pro-competitive policies foster investment, encourage innovation, and prevent monopolistic practices. These conditions are essential to reducing the cost of communicating and ensuring inclusive access to digital services. It goes without saying, I think, that the market is at present still highly concentrated and is for the most part largely dominated by 3 major players, some of which are in this room today. As a late entrant to the mobile market, we like to see competition. We are ready to compete, to collaborate, and to co-create. In our view, opening up the sector a bit more will drive competition and will ultimately be to the customer's benefit. In other words, making the market more conducive for new entrants will give consumers more products to choose from and will require the incumbents to become more innovative insofar as products and services are concerned and where price is concerned. This can only be to the consumer's benefit. Moving on to the issue of taxes, because I think that ACT covered the point around OTT players. On the issue of taxes, we are strongly in support of handsets being zero-rated for VAT. In our view, this will go a long way in making mobile devices in the country more affordable and will also ultimately drive digital inclusion. We would also like to encourage the government to consider the ways in which it could support the local manufacturing of handsets. This would first and foremost create jobs, and in the second instance, also likely assist with the issue of affordability. I won't go into the issue of electricity because we've covered this already. Just finishing off in relation to the first questions, finishing off with the regulatory framework. Our position is that South Africa's regulatory framework, or rather, South Africa's regulatory environment always needs to strike a careful balance. On the one hand, it must protect the integrity of those laws aimed at encouraging digital inclusivity and ensuring equitable participation in the telecom sector. On the other, it must be agile enough to accommodate new technologies that can fast-track national development goals. In our view, investors, both domestic and foreign, value one thing above all, and that is predictability. When policy shifts are sudden, fragmented or perceived to be tailored to individual entities, they raise questions around integrity, the integrity of the regulatory environment. South Africa has long been respected for its institutional maturity and consultative process to regulation. Therefore, any proposed changes in the regulatory framework, whether it be the ECA or any other legislation, must not lose sight of this and must follow this tradition. Any proposed amendments must therefore always be sector-wide, consultative, and always be subject to public scrutiny. Additionally, the proposed changes must avoid setting a precedent where exceptions replace long-term strategy. This is why Telkom supports a structured policy process that includes industry players and regulators. We must craft a future-forward framework that attracts innovation, while of course protecting national interests and empowering South Africans. Moving on to the next issue, Chair, being the challenges and opportunities arising from the terms and conditions in our license. Where our spectrum licenses are concerned, of course, we've covered the benefits arising out of our acquisition of spectrum in the first spectrum auction in 2021. Mr. CEO also spoke about the challenges we've encountered in connecting public service institutions. Just to finish off on that point, while the challenges that have been identified have impacted our deployment processes, we are moving forward full steam ahead and are still aiming to achieve full compliance by year 5. The other obligation relates to us partnering with MVNOs with 51% shareholding held by HDGs, or historically disadvantaged persons. We are currently engaged in a number of discussions with potential MVNOs and are looking to onboard an MVNO in the not too distant future. In this regard, we've already signed an agreement with a mobile virtual network enabler that will assist us in enabling MVNOs. We're hoping to make some form of concrete announcement on this particular issue in the near future. Zero rating has already been covered. The other issue relates to the WOAN. Our license, of course, includes obligations relating to the WOAN. While the Minister has proposed amendments to the WOAN policy, this amendment process has not yet been concluded, and so our obligations in this regard remain uncertain. The next challenge relates to the use it or lose it principle included in our license. Now, what the license says is that after a period of 10 years following the issue of the license, ICASA may require Telkom to either share or return the spectrum acquired by it if that spectrum has not yet been used by Telkom. This requirement is particularly problematic given that it is unclear how this process will be managed by ICASA. So that as it stands, it's unclear what criteria ICASA will apply in determining whether spectrum should be returned or shared. For instance, will ICASA take into account our future deployment plans in its decision making, and will we have the opportunity to then ask for that spectrum to be returned in future? Furthermore, where we are required to share the spectrum or to return it, it's unclear whether we will be refunded a portion of the amount paid by us, because of course this is very important if we consider the fact that we did pay a significant amount of money to obtain the spectrum in the first instance. So all these issues remain unclear and need clarification. And just to finish off on the issue of spectrum fees, what it is that we think is appropriate in the circumstances, especially considering the fact that when it is that we acquire spectrum, spectrum is of course requires a significant amount of capex to deploy. What it is that we are in support of is the regulator making the acquisition of spectrum more affordable. This will then allow us to then speed up the process of deploying the spectrum, which of course will then benefit the public, and especially the public in rural areas. I think that the USAF has already been covered, so I won't go through that. Just to finish off on the last two questions, Chair, in relation to compliance with the regulatory directive, the one thing that I want to say in that regard is that Telkom remains committed to complying with the applicable regulatory framework, as well as our public interest obligations. Now, it bears mentioning that Telkom is currently not facing any allegations of non-compliance with any applicable rules and regulations, touch wood. And where the Competition Commission is concerned in particular, following the Competition Commission settlement agreement with Telkom in 2009, which I'm sure is well known to the committee members, Telkom has been at great pains to ensure that its business and operational practices are and remain compliant. As an example of Telkom's efforts in this regard, we look at what it is that we've done around the outcomes set out in the Competition Commission's 2019 Data Services Market Inquiry. Now, while the market inquiry didn't find any anti-competitive conduct in respect of our mobile offerings, what it is that we did as an organization is that we elected to voluntarily support initiatives aimed at enhancing transparency and affordability in the mobile space. These initiatives included transparent pricing and zero rating access to public benefit websites. Telkom will continue to prioritize regulatory compliance so as to not jeopardize our licenses as well as our reputation in the market. Just to finish off, Chair, on the issue of data privacy, Telkom upholds stringent data privacy standards in line with the requirements in the Protection of Personal Information Act. Our Group CEO serves as our designated officer, and he is supported by a number of deputy information officers within the organization. We have put in place comprehensive policies and frameworks which guide the responsible management of personal information across the group. Telkom has also put in place robust security controls aimed at safeguarding personal information, and also created a strong culture of privacy awareness through training and the like. As a result, we have not faced any material data breaches thus far. Again, touch wood. Honourable Chair, I hope that I have adequately addressed these last four questions, and I'll hand back to Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Nosipo. In closing, Chair.
You have run out of time. Yes, in closing.
In closing, I mean, our purpose is to connect every South African to a better future. So we take this seriously. And we think this is a great opportunity to collaborate cross-industry with government and public to ensure that we can bring services to every South African. So we are committed to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to Telkom We need Honorable Bodlani. She always leads the, the clapping. Thank you very much. We've got 2 presentations left, and I'm sure we'll be able to go through them quite quickly, and then we'll break. We'll break. Please do forgive me, and I'm not being facetious. We must break. I would say get food, but I think we've seen that doesn't normally end well. So we'll break, even if it's for a few minutes. You grab something to eat, so that we can then start with the discussions. I believe the next presentation is Salsi.
Thank you, Madam Chair, committee members. I will try and go through and not repeat some of the points that were already mentioned by my fellow colleagues. So I'm just waiting for the presentation. Thank you. I will try and go through, but I think the most important thing I'll do first is just give context. I think we've met the colleagues already. We'll touch on all the topics that the committee has asked for as we go through this. So if we move to just giving a little bit about Salsi, I think we all know the company, but it's quite important to understand the journey that we've been through as an entity. Starting in 2001, we were 3rd entrant into the market, and since then we've worked quite hard. We've pioneered the MVNO enablement from that perspective. And we've underwent quite a bit of strife and struggle over the years. We were recapitalized twice already, once in 2017, the second time in 2022. But through that process, we then had to change our model and how we approach the market overall. From around 2020 or so, we then changed strategies and moved towards being a CapEx light type business. In essence, we've given up our physical infrastructure and are now partnering with our roaming partners on enabling our services to our consumers. And in so doing, we then started seeing a turnaround in the performance of the business all round. Historically, because of the high CapEx requirements and everything else that the company had gone through, there were certain restrictions financially, of course, that we could not unshackle ourselves from. And now as we've moved through, we're starting to make progress in that stance and are looking to then change this business going forward and posture it and have done a good baseline for it to move into growth and restructuring this business on a long-term basis. Despite all these challenges, as a business, we've remained quite consumer-centric, and over the years, we have provided some innovations across the board, outside of just the innovation relating to the network strategy and how we service our customers. We've also done some product innovations over the years. And if you look at our business and where we are now, we definitely think we are poised for growth. We are telco of the future, or telcos for industries that have more than 2 big players. We believe we have a strong, resilient brand. Despite historic investment in the brand, we're still in the top 30 for Kantar. We definitely want to continue to enable the digital access to our consumers, and I'll touch on that in a bit. From a sustainability impact, because of our model, we are definitely have a lower footprint across the board because we do not have the infrastructure. So that is in line with making sure that sustainably over time, our business is eco-friendly and green, so that we are happy about. And as we've continued on our journey, like I mentioned, we've continued to enable competition with our partnerships with the various MVNOs. And we started enabling MVNOs before they even became a requirement as part of the spectrum licensing historically. Sorry. So some of the key areas or focus areas we'll talk about. Over the years, we've invested over 16 billion in core CapEx. And now that we've moved our model from CapEx to OpEx, there are investments or payments that we're making for the services that would not qualify in that space. We also have our own spectrum and continue to hold our own spectrum, and have pioneered a multi-operator core network arrangement in the country, which allows us to seamlessly switch between our roaming partners and give that benefit to our customers from a redundancy perspective. Through our infrastructure arrangements, we currently have over a 96% coverage in the country, but I'll cover that in a little bit as we go through. From making sure that access is affordable, we continue to work internally to service our customers and our consumers, but we also are working on enabling more MVNOs to keep the industry competitive. And over the years, we did introduce and pioneered in 2013 the Cell C 60-cent voice tariff, which at the time was the first of its kind. Other innovations that we've made throughout the years, we have introduced the prepaid eSIM, and we've also then done other social innovations like Bring a Girl Child to Work, which has now evolved over the years, but I'll talk to that in a bit. So maybe we talk about where the business is now, if you move 2 slides down. When you're looking at our multi-operator core network, this has definitely had a big benefit for our consumers. We've basically given up about 5,000 or 5,500 of our own towers to then roam on our partners, giving us access to over 28,000 sites. That has meant that from a delivery to our consumers, they get a better proposition. We have been awarded from an open signal perspective best overall video in the country, and have also by My Broadband been rated the 2nd network in the country. So we are definitely seeing the improvements in the delivery to our consumers from a speed perspective and from just access and availability. Now that we are not investing heavily in the towers, that does allow us to then put our investments elsewhere. We have now pioneered Africa's first cloud-native solution using Amazon Web Services, or AWS, to execute our voice over LTE. This is just making that LTE proposition, or voice over LTE proposition, for our consumers more seamless, and we continue to look for more innovations. From a 5G perspective, I just want to correct, so we have not implemented 5G yet. We will be entering 5G shortly and are working on that enablement. But we've continued to then invest in other consumer-facing technologies to then make sure that our consumer experience as we go forward is more seamless. One of the biggest things we've achieved was a new billing stack that we've implemented. If you then look at our coverage, as we are roaming on certain partners, our coverage mirrors very closely there. So for 3G, we're around the 99%. 2G also very closely mirroring theirs. But I think it's important to note that over time, in the last years, in 2023, we gave back or returned all our unused microwave spectrum so that it can be used and thus enhance our consumer experience by other people having access to it. We've refarmed our own 900 spectrum just to make sure that there's optimizations there. And we continue to look for efficiencies that will benefit the country overall. From a spectrum perspective, we definitely do echo the sentiments of alternate spectrum assignment over time, and looking for more competitive bidding methods as we continue. If we then look at some of our commitments that come with our licensing, we have met the obligations for the universal service obligations in line with our colleagues. We don't necessarily see these as obligations, they're just the way we do business. But from a disability perspective, we are still behind from those commitments, although we are committed to finalizing the last 60 initiatives before the end of August of 2026. This historically having been hindered by a financial position, but we are now in a better state and will be executing on these. Despite those, we have made sure that where we have executed, we've given good technology and continue to then monitor it and partner with our partners to make sure that the technology remains relevant in the relevant places. We've also then implemented a national relay system for persons living with disabilities. In essence, this is just to help individuals that either cannot hear, so who have a hearing or speech impediment, in how they engage with us. This was implemented in 2024. We, however, continue to improve on this, and currently it is a limited technology, and we're enhancing it to make sure that it's widely used and get better adoption. If we then look at affordability, which I said I'd touch on earlier, in line with the industry, we have worked to make sure that affordability to our consumers continues to improve over time, having dropped our effective voice rate by over 25% since 2023, and our data effective rate having dropped by over 28%. If you look at some of the offerings that we have in the market, we currently offer value propositions such as 60 anytime minutes for as low as R7. And we offer these mostly in our USSD channels, which is where the bulk of our consumers are. From a broadband perspective, we have looked at making sure that home connectivity is also accessible. So you are able to get offerings outside of just fixed offerings like our Home Connector Flex, which would offer you about 80 gigs for 259, which is 100% more value than the rest of the market. And looking at other data propositions that we give for mobile services, we now can connect an individual for as little as 29 Rand for 3 gigs. So we've definitely pushed the envelope to make sure the propositions are affordable for our consumers. From an enablement perspective, we not only service our own customers, we also service our MVNO partners on the next slide. We have been in this for over 19 years with long tenure with most of our clients. We definitely believe that enabling the MVNOs is good for the competitive environment within the telco space. And we continue to partner with different MVNO partners as they then service on the customers going forward. From a cybersecurity, we're mostly in line with what everybody else has said, but if you please take it to the next slide. I think this improving our posture, our IT posture has been quite important, and we've continued to do that. And having all the relevant policies, procedures, and frameworks that we constantly review to make sure that we're in line with industry is important. But I think one of the most important things that we've done is we are committed to educating our public. So as a service provider, we take it very seriously in protecting our customers' information, but we also take it seriously in educating them around how to protect themselves. We thus have implemented a Stay Smart, Stay Secure public education framework, which we've started, and we continue on this journey with our customers to make sure that they are also aware of the threats that are out there. Despite all this, we continue to also make sure that we comply with all the regulation, POPIA included, to make sure that our customers' information is also secure. Looking at the various asks on where we think policy can enable going forward. Strengthening active and passive network sharing, so looking at how the sharing is done going forward, I think definitely could benefit the industry more. And aspects of that have been mentioned by my colleagues, so I won't spend too much time there. My colleagues have also mentioned the over-the-top platforms, so I won't spend too much time on that either. Modernizing that SIM registration for us is quite important. I think making sure that the RECA legislation is enhanced to keep up with all the changes that are happening in the industry, but also just in our country is quite important. Then we can better serve the public as an industry as well. And then just to echo what my colleagues, I think from Telkom had mentioned, just ensuring an equitable and efficient spectrum management would be quite important going forward. The legislation is quite clear on certain aspects, but we would just need to make sure on implementation on how those are implemented, it is clear, and that the implementation serves to make the whole process efficient and effective for the consumer going forward. I'll touch a little bit on our socioeconomics and what we do. Having pioneered Bring a Girl Child to Work many years ago, which evolved, we are still active in that space. We continue with similar products like Girl Code. We do other youth programs throughout, just to make sure that we touch our consumers at different age levels and throughout their experience. We offer bursary funding, learnerships. We partner with different initiatives and different entities to then also empower people. From a digital labs perspective, we have touched more than 4,000 children and continue to roll out more digital labs as we continue. And we also continue to evolve our offerings and are now supporting the Teddy Bear Foundation WhatsApp helpline to assist victims of gender-based violence from that perspective. We don't just talk about it, we also make sure that our employees live it. So we have continued volunteerism, and from a social and ethics committee perspective, we have clear mandates on how to move forward, not only with just communities, but with the environment, and have clear targets that have been set on recycling for the footprint that we have left. If we then look at our BEE for us, although we are a level 1, we do still have opportunities from a supply and enterprise development side, which is our core focus going forward. We have, because of where we are, this has been one of our biggest challenges in making sure that we can get wider reach, but we definitely are focused on doing that as we continue. But from a procurement perspective, we do partner with QSCs and AMEs currently, albeit on a small balance, so 74. We are also enabling job creation throughout, so we have partnerships that then uplift historical disadvantaged communities from that perspective. And we have partnerships with companies like DanaWorks or Money for Jam, where we then go either and revamp sponsors or train people to then partake in the industry going forward. But as we move into the next phase of where CELC is going, we definitely would want to invest more in this space, having been restricted by our past. In conclusion, we are very firmly in belief and definitely committed to advancing universal access and inclusive connectivity in line with our colleagues and in alignment with regulation. We want to continue to play a big enabling and stimulating market position, and we think that can be done, and we can continue to do that by evolving and continuing to innovate what we offer our consumers and also our MVNO partners. We will continue to expand our coverage. We think expanding coverage is quite important. For us, it would be more managed through our roaming contracts, but we want to then align on how that is done so that we can then better service our customers. From a policy and regulation perspective, outside of what my colleagues had mentioned and what I mentioned in and around RICA and sharing, we definitely want to continue to comply and then look at regulatory opportunities to enhance how we deliver, as I mentioned, for the RICA instance. And then from a security and cybersecurity perspective from our consumers, we definitely continue to then be compliant with relevant legislation, with a key focus also on educating our consumers to make sure that they also know how to protect themselves. Overall, from a sustainability perspective, we believe that and are committed to building a sustainable business model and look to actively have a wider base of the country participate economically in a transformed manner while protecting our planet as we go forth. Before I close off, I'd just like to reiterate from a CELC perspective and echo the condolences to the chair, condolences to the committee on losing a member, and just advise the committee that we will be supporting the families and the area that was affected in the Eastern Cape through a partnership initiative as we had done previously. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CFO. Colleagues from RAIN, you understand that you are standing between us and lunch. So please may I invite you to deliver your presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chairperson. We understand the pressure of being just before lunch. We're hoping in a couple of years' time we'll be third to present and not last. So watch out, guys. Let me take some time to introduce Rain, but before that, we would like to also add our voices to the condolences that have been sent for the families of the people whose lives have been cut short, and to the family of the chairperson, and also to the members of the committee that have lost a colleague. I would like to introduce Rain. We are the newest network in South Africa. We started in 2016 as a data-only network. We wanted to make high-speed internet accessible to more people. Our name comes from the Lesotho proverb, "Khotso Pula Nala." We exist to improve the lives of others. We create a value with our products and services that give South Africans the ability to always be connected to each other. That was a bit quick, but our 5G network, which is our main focus, covers millions of South Africans. We employ directly and indirectly with our partners over 1,000 South Africans, and we partner with a lot of SMMEs. And based on the presentations I've seen today, we see where we need to be in a few years' time, employing tens of thousands of people and having hundreds of SMMEs, but we are still growing. So where do we come from? We started in 2026 with a 4G network. No, sorry, 2016. With a 4G network, we launched our 4G services in 2017 and our 4G fixed wireless access. In 2019, just before COVID, we launched our 5G network, and we launched Africa's first 5G network with 5G fixed wireless access. In 2020, we moved to 5G standalone. This was a big thing for us because at that moment in time, only China had 5G standalone active, so we were the first out of China to move to 5G standalone. 2022, we implemented 3-carrier aggregation. 2023, we launched our smart router. In 2024, we upgraded our software on our network, which allows us to use the 3-carrier aggregation and our smart router to actually deliver 5.5G services. And currently, we are expanding our 5G network, and we're busy with the 700 rollout, which we are intending and currently implementing to increase our 5G coverage in rural areas. So I touched a bit on our network. These are some bragging rights. Our network is #1 in the average number of subscribers per site. So it is quite busy. It is a very good network. It is the highest utilized network in the world, according to Huawei. And this includes the networks in China. So for a small company in South Africa to be ranked #1 in terms of 5G, it's quite a thing that we are proud of ourselves. Go next. By riding on the shoulders of giants like Telkom and Cell C have, our 4G coverage covers 61 million people in South Africa. Our 5G network, which we are still growing, currently covers 21 million people, which is about 35% of the population, which we are, as I said, expanding further into the non-metros and into the rural areas. And then it's, our products, in terms of how we see the cost of services, what we've looked at from our perspective is, next slide, please, yes. We've simplified our products offering. So we provide an unlimited home service, and we provide mobile services for free. So we've got a home package that gives you one unlimited 5G service and 2 mobile services. We've got our Rain One work package, which gives you unlimited services on the 5G and 5 mobile SIMs. And then we've got our own standalone Rain Mobile. Our smart router, which we are so proud of, as you can see, it's got beautiful art on it. The art on that router is from local South Africans. So what we've essentially done is we've taken the work of these artists and put it in the houses of thousands of South Africans so that they can showcase their art. In terms of our service obligations and our CSI, From our previous, I'm going to start with our previous commitments. When we had our first license, we had 1,000 schools to connect. We did 1,000 and we doubled it because, like everybody else, this is not a tax. This is what we have to do as part of South Africa. We've connected 2,166 public services institutions through our 4G and 5G networks, and the intention is to connect another 1,077 in the next couple of months, provided that we sort out the issues with the beneficiaries, documentation, and RICA. And I think that's a problem that all of us operators have. We are ready to deploy. We just cannot deploy until the documentation and the processes are correct. If we could go to the next one. In terms of our CSI, so outside of our obligations that come with our license, we've done also a lot of work. We've got 313 computer labs. We've connected users with over 15,000 devices. We've given 177,000 learners access to online reading and mathematics intervention. And this year, almost 4 million learner hours have been facilitated through our partner. Yes, please. So we are very excited and very bullish about 5G because we understand that 5G is the backbone to 4IR. We've been talking about 4IR. We have provided the backbone for that. And through that, we provide unmatched performance with ultra-low latency, high-speed, high bandwidth for seamless AR and VR. We provide access for IoT with massive device density, so we can collect millions of devices per square kilometer. We see 5G as accelerating digital inclusion. It extends ultra-fast connectivity to underserved areas. It drives smart infrastructures like smart cities, smart harbors, mines, and agriculture. And it enables remote services in healthcare and education and public delivery. Where we see this actually playing out in terms of South African development is we are expecting that 5G is going to be the catalyst for innovation and growth. People are going to be able to innovate more by getting access to things like AI, by taking advantage of what's coming with IoT and doing edge computing. It democratizes access to these powerful digital tools. So if you've got 5G, wherever you are, you've got access to these beautiful and wonderful things that allows us to unlock new industries, create jobs, and make sure that everybody's included in the economy of South Africa. In terms of operational challenges, I must say these hits us proportionally harder than our bigger colleagues because we are quite a young network. So when we've got vandalism, it creates a bit of a problem for us. Currently, what this does is, in terms of quality of service, if a site loses power, the users become unevenly distributed across the network. So they concentrate on the sites that are still up. And the users on those sites start receiving a lower quality of service. We lose coverage, we lose capacity. And if the power remains down for prolonged periods, that gives people a chance to come and steal the batteries and steal the cables. And then the sites are down for longer, and then you've got a lot more quality of service issues. In terms of what we've experienced, in 2024, we've had about 1,400 power outage incidents every month, which equates to about 13,500 outage hours. It's 13,500 hours where people don't have service. And the average time to repair these outages is 9.5 hours. So essentially the whole day from the time you get home till the morning. So the support that we need in terms of RAIN specifically is the oversight of towercos. So unfortunately, we have to rely on these towercos to provide us services to make sure that the towers are up. So the times at which they respond, the security on those on that infrastructure is not always up to scratch. The maintenance is also not always up to scratch. So we need to see how regulation on the towercos as a whole can actually be tightened. In terms of critical infrastructure, there's a lot of infrastructure that all the MNOs rely on as extremely critical. And if any of those infrastructure happens to go down, it's going to have a higher impact on the services in terms of not just the network, but in terms of other consumers of the network, in terms of banks, in terms of entertainment and stuff like that. ESCOM is the bane of all of us. Unfortunately, there we really need some kind of help. As much as we try and put generators and batteries on site, we can only do so much. We definitely need help with power resiliency in the network. And then for where we do actually get vandalized and get hit, we need some kind of joint security that between the MNOs and the tower cos and the power providers, that we can actually work together to try to solve these issues. And then in terms of regulations and legislations, we are quite encouraged by the recent step by ICASA to align the National Radio Frequency Plan with the ITU regulations, and we believe that this is the right step. We hope that it will actually be done quite quickly this time as opposed to the previous time. In terms of spectrum licensing, I think my colleagues will agree with me. Spectrum does not define the technology that you use, so the spectrum must be considered as exactly that, spectrum, and then allow the operators to decide what technology they use on that spectrum so that they can keep up with technological advancements without having to worry about the spectrum having to change its use. And then the last thing is policy certainty. We spend a lot of money and it takes a lot of time for a technology refresh. So if we know that we're going to invest in the next generation networks, then we want to have that certainty that nothing is going to change. The ground is not going to move under us, because the money that we spend and the time that we spend to get to those steps is quite intensive. I think you've went one back. And I must, again, we are RAIN, South Africa's 5G network. Thank you for having us.
Maine, Pola. Thank you very much. Thank you to all the presenters. Let me welcome, I saw Honorable Makubele had joined us, as well as Honorable Mkhacha. Thank you very much for joining us, Honorable members. We're going to take a 30-minute break. It's 1 o'clock. 30-minute break, and then when we come back, we're going to open for discussions. Each member will be given 10 minutes within which to raise their issues. That will take us just over an hour, according to my calculations. Then we will then hand over to yourselves. The request I'm going to make when the members engage is that to, as far as possible, please also be direct on solutions. I think there's been a number of issues that have been raised here, which are also asked to the committee. And within the powers that we hold, especially our legislative powers, I would wish that to a large extent that this meeting begins to come up with resolutions that will be the outcome of the meeting, and that would obviously come from yourselves. Thank you very much. So 30-minute break. I believe there's lunch outside. Thanks.